Because here's what you have to know about Austin. Electric arm, okay? Electric arm. The arm talent is off the chain. It is elite, period. There's a whole bunch of quarterbacks that you can teach the cerebral stuff to, and they can't make the throws. This kid, guys, he can make the throws.
That was Neil McCready, who covers Ole Miss for the 24/7 site down in Oxford, alongside Alex and T-Bone. I'm BK. He was on the Power Mizzou podcast over the weekend, Alex, describing new Missouri quarterback Austin Simmons. He is signed up, boys. Woo!
All right, man. Got to keep the homerism to yourself, okay?
The Tigers got their quarterback. He officially signed earlier this morning. So it is done. Signed, sealed, and delivered. And Alex, I love this time of the year. I know college football has 100 different issues. Their schedule, like just the way that it is structured, is a disaster right now. We've got coaches going elsewhere while their team is still continuing to play on in the college football playoff. We have players on these playoff teams that are transferring. Hell, Missouri's quarterback is still technically on the Ole Miss roster right now, and if Chambliss was to get hurt in the semifinal, he'd have to take the field for Ole Miss. Mizzou just added a cornerback from Oregon. His team remains in the playoff. So, yeah, the schedule is a disaster. That being said, boy, do I enjoy this time of the year. It is fun as hell. Your entire roster is getting overhauled. Like, Missouri right now is talking to offensive tackles and defensive ends and cornerbacks. They just got a quarterback. They got a wide receiver from Cincinnati yesterday. It's unbelievable, and it's all condensed. Like, Major League Baseball's offseason started in November. The best players have yet to sign. It is mid-January, man. The pitchers and catchers report in 5 weeks. And they don't know where they're going yet. Meanwhile, with college football, the portal opened like Friday. We know where most of these players are going 4 days later. It's all condensed into this 2-week stretch where it's instant gratification. It's literally a made-for-Twitter event. And I am eating it all up. So I'm curious, in 314-399-9646, that's the Air Comfort Service text line. You can check us out on YouTube, as always, at youtube.com/101ESPNSTL. Are you guys enjoying this the same way that I am? Because this is also kind of a made-for-BK event. I love the transaction. I grew up in a time where I was playing Madden, doing the fantasy drafts. I play fantasy football. Like, all of this is very much in line with my own sensibilities. So it makes sense that I would enjoy it. Do you have that same feeling, Alex? T-Bone, for you as a fan of somebody that's not getting quite the same level of player,
yours must
that's
not
not
be
to
fun.
be dismissive, it's just the truth.
Oh, yeah. Well, we had to bring it up, didn't we?
Yours must not be as fun.
Are you having the same amount of fun? Because I love it, man. I think this is great.
T-Bone's portal season is like the Cardinals' free agency. Not a lot happens, so you just kind of sit around and wait. I guess Cardinals free agent seasons in the past. I love it because it is free agency. And I think that's why so many people are drawn to it, because if your team underperformed of your expectation or they weren't any good, well, then in a matter of a couple of days, you're already projecting of like, damn, my team's going to win every single game this year. We walked in, and what did BK tell us, T-Bone?
Yeah, I walked in the door, and before I even said hello, I heard we're going 11-1 this year.
Welcome
11-1.
Welcome to free agency.
Hold on, Dream can't win the big game. Relax.
That's true. He can't win the big game. But like, this is what you get in pro sports, right? It's why, for me, as a fan, for as long as I can remember, like, free agency, the first day of it was Christmas Day, because I'd be on my phone and I'd be like, oh man, who are they going to sign? College football, in pro sports, it's not instant. You have to wait. College football, it's like the moment that bad boy opens up, it's, oh yeah, these guys already know where they're going, or you've got what BK has bookmarked on his internet where it's just, oh, this guy might sign here, and you're seeing how the connections kind of fall in place. So I told you in the office, I think the video game theory has so much into it because people prefer the transactions more than sports, because you can recreate the team and make it better than what you think it is currently. Man, that's college football in a nutshell. It's GM mode. We got NCAA football back for EA Sports. T-Bone spent 48 hours in front of it. That's what this is. You get to watch your team make transactions.
I don't got to deal with NIL, so life's a lot easier in the video game than these other guys. I don't know. See, like, I love, like, MLB free agency. I love when it's moving. Right now it's stuck, so it sucks. But
Does it move?
well, at times.
Do something.
I enjoy off seasons, and I enjoy the conversations that come with them. And yet, like, for some reason, for, like, college athletics, I don't like it. I don't know why. I think part of it's because it's not like it's, with baseball, there's 200 free agents to go in. In the portal, it's like a third of the country goes into the portal, and everybody decides to become a free agent. And half the time, I don't even know who's in the portal. I found out this morning our tight end's in the portal at Illinois. I didn't even know that. He's probably been in there for 2 weeks. And then the other thing is you get guys you get guys that come in and, like, you don't know, like, are they really going to be good? Like, it's different for Missouri because they've brought in they brought in a stud at linebacker from Auburn. Like, that one would be exciting to see that signing. Mm-hmm. Meanwhile, at Illinois, I'm being told, like, hey, we got, like, this offensive lineman from Colorado State that was, like, a big target of ours. I'm like, do I care? I don't know. Maybe. I hate this kind of time of the season because there's just so much that's going on. It's a blitzkrieg that occurs where I have no idea, like, who is in the portal, who's not. Is this guy actually signing? Oh, Nebraska landed a quarterback. Oh, no, he didn't. He went to Kentucky. Sorry, you got a blank check from him. Like, I just hate this time of the year. It feels like there's nothing that is truly solidified. I don't know who's a free agent. I hate it. I can't stand the portal season.
Interesting. So I have my qualms with the way that college football is structured. Like, the idea that everybody is a free agent every year means program building is gone. It's not what it once was. It's not you get these guys into your system, you develop them, they become starters for you or stars for you, and as a fan, you get to continue to watch them grow. I thought that was kind of the value of college sports. They become almost like family for you, right? Like, you're watching these kids grow up. It's a weird thing, but it's college sports. It's different than professional ranks. And now college sports are basically the professional ranks. Mm-hmm. Like, what we are watching is the professionalization in every possible way of collegiate sports.
It's just they can get out of their contracts a lot faster.
Somehow, there's even more transaction to it. Because every year, if you want to, you can become a free agent. And if you're good enough, you can have the top schools in the country bidding on your services. And over a 2-week stretch, you can be wined and dined by some of the greatest collegiate athletics programs in the world. Like Cam Coleman, the wide receiver from Auburn. Apparently, Texas Tech dropped out of the race for him because the bidding is just becoming too crazy. Guys, Texas Tech is unafraid to bid on anybody. And they were like, yeah, that's too rich for our blood.
They spent an ad. I saw they spent money for an ad in New York Times to announce the signing of their quarterback. Or Times Square, sorry. Times Square to announce the signing of their quarterback where they spent like $5 million.
I think that's awesome.
Sorsby, the quarterback from Cincinnati, is now the quarterback at Texas Tech next year. And they took out an ad at Times Square and put up like, welcome to Texas Tech.
I think that's awesome.
I hear where you're coming from, T-Bone, and I don't think you are an outlier. I think there's a decent amount, especially of old school college football fans that look at this and say, this is not the sport that I fell in love with. Because it's totally different than the sport that I certainly grew up with, where this was high school recruiting, where you'd get excited, but that plays out over multiple years, and you don't get the same instant gratification. Guys, these players that are committing to schools, the reason why it gets me excited is because there's real payoff instantly. This past season alone, I mean, look at what Missouri put on the field. Josiah Trotter was one of their best players. If they don't have that guy on the field, now he's going to the NFL. But if they don't have him on the field, that defense isn't what it was. If they don't have Damon Wilson, the defensive end from Georgia, well, that defense isn't what it was. You look at the entire defense, basically. Zion Young, transfer. Chris McClellan, transfer. I already mentioned Josiah Trotter, Damon Wilson. Both cornerbacks last year for them were transfers. On the offensive side of things, their number one receiver out of the slot was a transfer. Their quarterback was a transfer. Their left tackle was a transfer. You guys get the point. Hell, their running back, that's an all-world player. He was a transfer for them. And they are not unique in that regard. I'm going to read you off, Alex, some of the rankings from last year's transfer portal, okay? Number 1 was LSU. Set them aside. Brian Kelly, man.
That didn't go well.
Number 2, Texas Tech. Made it to the playoff this year. Number 3, Miami. still in the playoff. Number 4, Ole Miss, still in the playoff.
Despite all of the odds.
Number 5, Oregon, still in the playoff. So 3 of the 4 teams that remain in the playoff this year were 3 of the top 5 transfer portal classes from a year ago. Continuing along from there, number 11 was A&M, made it to the college football playoff. Number 12, Oklahoma, made it to the playoff. That's 6 of the top 12 portal classes making it to the playoff this season. That is not happen chance. That is something where it was causation, not correlation. These players went there. The teams got better. They ended up making it to the playoff accordingly. So if you are a fan of a team, whether it's Missouri or Illinois or somewhere else, your team can legitimately overhaul its roster in one offseason by getting the right dudes out of the transfer portal. And that's what makes, for me at least, this time of the year so much fun to monitor.
Yeah, it gives you something to dream on. And I think especially for a lot of these teams like Texas Tech, a perfect example of this. I mean, to go from where they were to where they're at in terms of, and I know it didn't go well for them in their round of the playoffs, but they were viewed as one of the more dominant teams this season, all from a successful transfer portal season. So, I mean, again, in a matter of a week, you could go from a team that doesn't look like they have any shot of making college football playoff to having one of the best transfer portal recruits out there and then turning into being one of the best teams in your conference. Now, the problem for Mizzou is the SEC is so competitive, and this was the conversation yesterday we had of the SEC and the Big Ten. I mean, you're in competition galore to try and get the best players, but, man, I think that's why people undervalue how much Drinkwitz is. The coaching side is one thing, but, man, if you have the success and the skills to go out there and get these kids to commit to Mizzou and come just for 1 year, every year gives you a shot to put yourself in the playoff position.
Yeah, and now the book is out that, boy, actually going to the portal is maybe the smartest route to go, because that first year with Drink where they end up getting to, the Cotton Bowl where they beat Ohio State? That was kind of the first year where the transfer portal where you saw Mizzou kind of take a little bit of advantage of it. They used some of the NIL stuff to their advantage early on. And now, like some of those programs that you read off, Miami used to be one where it was, hey, they would just get the 5 stars, they would program build, they wouldn't have to worry about the portal. Oklahoma was the same way over the last couple of years. Oregon was one of those. And now you're starting to see a lot of these blue blood programs, the ones that are catching up. What are they doing? They're learning, hey, the portal is the smartest route to go. So that, I think it is where you're going to see a lot of these teams really learn to flourish is in this portal here as we get into, year 6 of this now, where guys can kind of transfer just wherever they want to at any point. And I think that's where you're going to see a lot of teams really develop and take that next step as, like in Alabama. Alabama's probably a program that needs to go to the portal more. Clemson for sure needs to catch up on the times and hit the portal. Like once you start to see that, that's when some of these blue blood programs might be getting back to where they were.
Got this text from the 636. All of this college stuff and pay for play is turning this sport into 10 to 12 really good teams. Nobody else is going to matter. It's taking away from the fun. I hate to be the bearer of bad news, brother, but that's been the case in college athletics for forever.
Yeah, in the past, it's only been 2 good teams and then everyone else.
The pay for play is actually leveling out the playing fields. Like what we have seen is a dispersion of talent in a way that we hadn't previously. Like Georgia used to just hoard all of these players. Damon Wilson in 2015 just would have been a backup defensive end at Georgia. Hell, Jared Verse, T-Bone's favorite player on the Rams, is defensive end. He transferred to Florida State because he couldn't get on the field enough at Georgia, became a future first-round draft selection, and is now one of the best defensive ends in the NFL. That guy would have been stuck behind other superstar-level players at Georgia in a previous version of college football. I saw this the other day. At Alabama, this feels like it's a Mizzou problem because I know Mizzou fans have complained about it a bit. A lot of Mizzou fans are complaining about the wide receivers that are transferring out, right? You basically have one guy that's remaining. Every wide receiver that has signed with Alabama over the past 3 seasons has since transferred. Every high school receiver that signed with him has transferred out of the program, basically. I think it was 21, 22, 23. All of those guys have transferred out of the program. This is the way that it works now. So those 5-star players that signed with Bama, they are now playing elsewhere, instead of them all just waiting for their turn to be the next guy. So it has actually leveled out the playing field a little bit, instead of everybody going to basically 12 programs across the country.
I just want 12 to 16 really good teams because that sets up for a great playoff. That's all I care about. After that,
with one great team?
yeah, rather than what it
I think
was.
that's what it was this year. Well,
maybe.
I won't count the playoff because the last two that got in.
I was going to say to sit there and say it's only a couple of really good teams. I mean, look at the playoffs right now. Two of the teams in it I thought weren't even going to be at this position still in Miami and Ole Miss. Honestly, could put Oregon in there too for how some of their season went.
It's a fun time of the year. And if you're a college football fan and you want your team to be better next year, this is the time.
Maybe I just want more rules.
No, I think T-Bone...
It feels like the Wild West.
You know what T-Bone wants?
His team to do something.
Yes, he wants his team to be better at it.
Maybe stop worrying about family and start worrying about action. Your family's leaving, man. Your kicker left.
If T-Bone's team was doing in the portal what his basketball team did in Croatia,
and that was recruiting. That was clean, good old-fashioned recruiting. Okay?
That one was cheating, but it's fine.
No, I meant it's playing within the rules. I'm not accusing them of doing anything that's nefarious. I'm just saying, I think it would be more exciting for you if you were also seeing your team get players from Penn State and Oregon and Auburn and some of the blue blood programs. Instead,
we got
your quarterback's coming from East Carolina.
And a defensive lineman from Penn. Like, does it get any better than that?
T-Bone's going back to look at East Carolina film to find out.
The Ivy Leagues. All right, alongside T-Bone and Alex, I'm BK. Coming up in 15 minutes, we'll dive into NFL quick hitters. But next, the Major League Baseball offseason is once again hitting a snag.
The opposite.
What's going on and how is it going to affect the Cardinals? We'll talk about it next year on 101 ESPN. Alex, I love playing best ball over on Underdog, and I love in particular playing playoff baseball playoff best ball with Underdog. And here's why. You can draft your team. There's a bunch of different strategy that goes into it. Open up the Underdog app, go to the NFL tab under the originals, and you'll see all of the tournaments that exist right now. I already have 20 teams for this year's playoff best
you said
ball
A team.
format.
How about 20?
Yeah, I've got 20. The best part of fantasy is the draft, and you get to do these over and over and over again. Give yourself a shot at the big prizes. $500,000 available in prizes in the Mitten tournament. That's the one that I personally like. Alex, what else do you have for us?
He's not lying about it. He is all over this, and frankly, it is a lot of fun to do. Maybe that's not your cup of tea, though. Maybe you just want to go individual games, individual plays. Super easy to use on Underdog. You pick your favorite player in a certain game. You pick stats that may go higher or lower on certain categories, and if you get your entries right, you could win up to 5,000 times your cash. So download the Underdog app today. Use promo code BKO to score $75 in bonus entries when you play your first $5. That's promo code BKO. Underdog, make plays, win money. Must be 18 plus and present in Missouri. Terms apply. See assets.underdogfantasy.com/web/play and get terms _DFS_.html for details. Concerned with your play, call 1-800-GAMBLER. Visit www.ncpgambling.org. Why? Because there's not a deadline to sign in the NHL. There's not a deadline to sign in the NBA. There's not a deadline to sign in the NFL. Why is it there's no deadline in Major League Baseball?
Yeah, the cap serves the deadline.
So there you go. So there's
because
your
you only
answer.
have so much money to use in those other sports, and it's known publicly how much money you have available.
But the players don't have to sign right away. They could wait it out and
They could,
see.
but the problem, like you saw this with, I'll use Vladdy as an example. When Vladdy became a free agent after he got traded from the Rangers, Vladdy thought he was still a, top
Premier
six winger,
player.
premier player at that time. So he's asking for, we'll use the example of $8 million just to keep it simple. Okay, well, you can wait and see if that market develops. But if you don't get that offer right away, these teams are pivoting right away because they've got to make the moves, right? And you don't want to be the player that's left without the chair sitting. So what did Vladdy have to do? He had to settle for a deal well below market value on a one-year deal.
And it's because the money is basically the deadline. Yeah. Like, there's only so much money to go around. There's a pot, and once you don't get that amount of money, it goes elsewhere. So somebody else will eat into that portion of the pie for you. So
there's the answer. A deadline or a cap. And I know the players complain that they don't want the cap. Well, you can't complain about not wanting the cap, but then also complain about not having a team sign you and not being ready for spring training and your season starting off poorly.
Maybe there's some politics that go into this statement that
We're
I'm
not
about
doing
to
that
say,
today in
but
2026.
I don't understand really why the players are looking out for the 1% when 99% of them are not benefiting by the system. Mm-hmm. Yes, absolutely. Shohei Ohtani benefits from this current system because in the NBA, for example, Shohei Ohtani's salary would be capped because they have a max contract, right? And so, LeBron James for his entire career has made less than what he's actually worth because the best players are capped on the amount of money that they can make out of the overall cap that NBA teams have. The same thing is true for Patrick Mahomes. He's making less than what he's probably actually worth because the team has to put a roster around him. In Major League Baseball, there's no cap on individual players or the teams. So Shohei benefits from that. Bryce Harper once upon a time benefited from that. But most of these players, like Kyle Tucker, he's not at the same level as those guys. He's not at the same level as Juan Soto or Shohei Ohtani. And so what ends up happening is he views himself as, well, I'm the next guy, so I will get paid in line with them. No, dude. Baseball teams aren't going to budge.
Yeah, those teams have a price of what they're going to pay you, and you either accept this or we're not going to pay you.
Bo Bichette, really good player. Awesome player, man. He might have to accept something well below market value because he's probably not going to be a shortstop long term. And now you get just Framber Valdez, really good pitcher, has a few warts, doesn't have the same velocity that you'd probably want, not a huge strikeout guy.
Drew at his catcher.
Yeah, there's that as well. And so you don't end up getting the max amount of money. And so those guys get pulled down just a little bit. And then really the players that end up getting screwed is the third and fourth tier of the free agent market.
Yeah.
Harrison Bader's just waiting to sign with somebody. Because these teams are all stuck. They have the top of the market they're still looking at. Then they have the trade market that they're looking at. And then they'll eventually get to, you down there, the players that are going to make a one-year, $10 million deal every offseason. Those guys in the NFL sign week 2 of free agency. In Major League Baseball, they sign week 2 of spring training. It's a crazy system that takes place. And it does have a trickle-down effect on teams like the Cardinals that are trying to trade Brendan Donovan or potentially looking at moving JoJo Romero, who could be a pivot for teams that are going to the free agent market where there's 50 free agent relievers that are still available. It's not good for people in Chaim Bloom's shoes either.
Yeah, I don't the cap would be the best solution for all of this, and I think you're going to see owners try for it at the next stop, at the next labor stoppage after this season. I still don't know that they're going to end up getting that. I think you brought this up a couple of weeks ago. I think the best path to at least help this would be putting a deadline on trades. I wouldn't do it for free agent signings because then now you could make the argument now, like we just said, teams are already posturing, hey, we're not going beyond this mark. But they have the element of, okay, well, we may not sign Bichette. Well, we can go to the trade market as well for Donovan. If you put the trade market at, say, December 31st is the cutoff. I'll just use that as an easy one right here. Well, now a team can't say that, right? They have to now look at the free agent market more. And I don't think you can put that a signing kind of a signing period where you can say, okay, once this date passes, you can no longer sign free agents, because then teams will really just hold down their offers and force the players to come to them. So I think you have to leave that open. But I think you could definitely close off and say December 31st, if a trade is not completed by then, you have to wait until opening day. I don't even think you limit it to, well, once spring training gets going, because then teams can just kind of wait around still. I think you have to force them to say you've got to wait until opening day occurs, then the trade market can open back up. Otherwise, you're right. You just end up with multiple paths, and you end up with front offices that they've got this down to a, I don't know if I would call it a great science, but they've got it down to a science for what they believe is a player's value. They're not budging on it. There is no more old school in baseball, right? We used to see this all the time where teams would give out contracts. You go, what are they doing? Why are they handing that out? Well, it was kind of old school mindset thinking, right? They weren't using the age curve. Now they've got this down to a T. They know what they're doing. They also know the value of, hey, we're trading X amount of prospects. They equal this for future wins compared to the player we're acquiring for future wins. So everybody's using this, all 30 teams. So everybody knows exactly what they're doing, and they've basically created the market themselves. And if players don't want to come to it in free agency, they're not going to budge above it unless a bidding war occurs. And odds are that's probably not happening for most of the free agents.
The dirty word in these kinds of negotiations is collusion. There doesn't have to be collusion in Major League Baseball. All of these teams have their own models, and they come to pretty similar results. Where it's like, yeah, all of these players are worth X, Y, and Z. I mean, you go look at, I think it's Tim Britton who does this for The Athletic, or he writes up all of his contract projections. They're not perfect. They're pretty damn close, though. And the fact that somebody, just a neutral observer of the sport, can go in with his model and basically find out, and MLB Trade Rumors does it as well, Fangraphs has it as well, the fact that these neutral third-party places can come to terms with, this is what they're going to get, this is what they're going to get, and they're pretty damn accurate, speaks to where we're at. We kind of know what these players are going to get, and so it's about, is the player going to budge, is the team going to budge, where are we going to end up meeting in the middle, and neither of the two sides want to budge, and so we just get stuck. I agree with T-Bone. I think we need a trade deadline in the offseason. I think that would help push things forward. I also think maybe it would help us get to some kind of a resolution with Nolan Arenado, who seems to have no options right now. Mike Farron mentioned over the weekend, hey, the Angels would be a good place for him. I think it might ultimately come down to him deciding, am I willing to go to the Angels, a team that obviously is not in contention in 2026.
They're still adding.
In 2036.
Or am I willing to be released? And that might also be on the Cardinals, who are saying publicly we're not going to do that, as they should. You should posture yourself as such. But, man, there's not exactly a market that has seemed to develop for my guy Nolan Arenado out there.
I think they're waiting to see, like, when all these other third basemen and infielders sign with teams, then there's going to be somebody left standing without a chair, and then they come to the Cardinals. The problem with that is those teams might be waiting until the start of the season, and good luck trying to pull off a deal like this. On top of it, the team left standing could be one that Arenado says, yeah, I don't want to go there. So, yeah, you've got a team that says we're interested in it. You're going to have to eat a ton of money on this, but they're interested. It's either this, he comes back, or you release him. And I know you didn't add that middle one,
but he's not allowed to come back.
I think that middle one's probably the number one.
Not allowed to come back, according to BK. See, this is why I always have been steadfast on. I think there was a chance he's back. Not because, I don't think a team would trade for him. I think there could be a path towards that. How many teams need a third baseman? There's not many. And if they do, they're looking at Bregman, they're looking at Suarez. And if some of them have internal options, like Boston, for example. They want to bring back Bregman. If they don't get Bregman, they got a guy internally they're going to turn over the keys to.
He can't be back. He'll be somewhere else on opening day of 2026.
Can't be. That sounds different than won't be.
Alongside Alex and T-Bone on BK, NFL Quick Hitters is next.
Tanner Hendrickson here with the Sports Center update brought to you by Saliga Heating and Cooling. Blues off again today. They will be back in action tomorrow night when they visit the Chicago Blackhawks. We'll have pregame coverage tomorrow night starting at 7:30 with Alex Ferrario. Puck drop at 8:30 with Chris Gerber and Joey Vitale. The Sports Center update is brought to you by Saliga Heating and Cooling, an Icon Heating and Air Conditioning dealer.
Alongside Alex and T-Bone on BK, it's BK and Ferrario here on 101 ESPN. Let's dive into some NFL quick hitters. Big news in the NFL today as the Washington Commanders, a team that, Alex, what was it, 12 months ago was playing in the NFC Championship game, has now fired both of its coordinators, including Cliff Kingsbury, a man that I would be happy to see as the next offensive coordinator in Kansas City. But let's set that aside here for a second.
You got Eberflus, man.
This speaks to how quickly things can change in the league. This time last year, we were all like, man, look at the Commanders. This team, they got Jaden Daniels. They got a good coaching staff. This stuff is all in place. And now 11 months later, they're moving on from their coordinators. They're selecting, I believe, in the top 10 in this year's NFL draft. And it all looks like, I don't really know how great they're set up for future success. What do you make of the Commanders and how quickly this fell apart?
I think some of this is explainable. I mean, Jaden Daniels was not healthy this season, and they kept trying to make him healthy, and he was not. I mean, their offense just was not as elite as it was last year. And I don't know if you're going to blame Cliff Kingsbury for that or just the overall performance, but defensively, they never really made any upgrades, and it felt like the team never found itself. You underperformed to expectations if you're Washington, so it makes sense that you move on from the coordinators. I think there still needs to be one more firing. I think you need to fire the head coach. I mean, you fire the coordinators, that's fine, but there's a bigger problem there from going where you were one of the best teams in the NFC last season to now being a team that couldn't even sniff the playoffs midway through.
YouTube chat brought this up from Brian. They bet on too many old players. That's my biggest takeaway from this. They should have been trying to get younger, and instead they bet on a bunch of old veterans. And when you do that, a lot of the time they get hurt. And they were really injured this season. So I just think they built the wrong way. We said that at the time. This isn't even second guessing. It was just a weird way to operate.
Yeah, that was my biggest take. Like, offensively, I think it was Daniels got hurt, and that is the biggest driving force for why the offense didn't look as good. But yeah, defensively, and like watching them, they looked old and slow.
Yes.
Right? I mean, even on the offensive side of the ball, like you had Zach Ertz, they had Austin Eckler, who they decided to go with at running back to start the year, and he tears his Achilles. Bobby Wagner's your linebacker. Bobby Wagner's been playing, I feel like, for 20 years now in the NFL. And I think they had an old edge rusher, if I'm not mistaken, as well. So, yeah, to me, it was just more the build. I still think Dan Quinn's probably a good head coach. Like, I would not have fired Dan Quinn. I think you probably had to move on from the coordinators to take some of the pressure off of him. I think you got to look at the GM and why did they decide to build this way? Why go old in a sport when youth is at maybe the best it could be for an organization?
As you guys look at the offseason now and you think about the coaching hires that could be made this offseason, what team do you think is the most attractive for potential head coaching candidates of the teams that have an opening now? So, like, let's not include, for example, the Ravens, who I suppose might be able to come open eventually. But of the teams that are open, what do you think is the most attractive?
This one's tough. I think my answer is the Falcons. It's just a roster that at least have difference makers in place. As a defense that showed some signs of life early on in the season. But, man, I look around with the exception of the Falcons. I don't know if I could pick a team that's in a better position.
I don't know that I feel great about this answer. I'm leaning Titans. And I think it's because you've got Cam Ward.
That's what I would go with.
And the reason that I'm hesitant to say it is just because they are a dysfunctional organization. But I think you would hope that eventually they would stabilize. You know, I think like they brought in Stefanski. Stefanski, would, if I'm the Titans, is my number one target to come in there. Now, I don't know if Stefanski wants it because he just came from a dysfunctional organization. But I think that's the one for me because you've got the quarterback. He's on the rookie contract, so you can build the roster around him. I think that is the number one spot. Like Atlanta, their young quarterback's injured, and they got an old quarterback in Kirk Cousins now.
So that's my thing. I've seen some of these rankings, and the Falcons are at number one. I just don't really get it. The most important position is the quarterback position. They have no answer at the position.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe it is Penix, but his future is very uncertain right now with yet another knee injury. I would take the Giants job over that one, personally.
I would
think
too.
Jackson Dart has shown some stuff, at least. And I take the Titans job because I really like what we saw this year out of Cam Ward. I would even consider taking the Raiders job over the Falcons job. And the reason being, you have the number 1 overall pick. So I can potentially next year have Ashton Genty, Brock Bowers, Fernando Mendoza as the starting point for my offense. Now, you're in a really tough division. You're going to have to deal with Mahomes. You're going to have to deal with Sean Payton. You've got Jim Harbaugh. That's not an easy setup, but at least I've got some stuff going for me. The Falcons, if you don't have a quarterback, what do you have? You're setting yourself up to be fired in 3 years.
Depending on what's available, though, if you could find a quarterback, I think you have the playmakers and the difference makers on the offense and I think on the defensive side.
Yeah.
It's the hardest
They don't
thing
have
to
a
get.
first-round pick because they traded it last year in the draft for a defensive end who was
That's
pretty
ours,
good.
baby.
Pierce was good, but I wouldn't have traded their first-round pick for him.
No.
They have no outs. They have no route to get that quarterback that you're talking. I guess maybe Tua, maybe Kyler, if these guys get released.
Yeah.
But that's a stopgap option. That's not a future consideration.
Typically, I'm someone that like across sports would say like, you know what, I'll figure it out if I lose that player. Like, I don't know, like if, for example, Devontae Adams, I think is on a 1-year deal for the Rams. If they say, yeah, he's going to outprice him, I'm like, you know, you can figure it out, right? The only spot I will never say that in sports is the quarterback spot. If I have to say, we'll see what we can find. The answer is you're bleeped. Like that's just truly what it is because like the guys you just brought up, Kyler, Tua, probably Jacoby Brissett, like those are the names we're talking about. That's not a guy that fixes your organization. A guy that fixes the organization is a guy like Cam Ward, potentially a guy like the Raiders are going to be drafting with the number 1 overall pick. Not these stopgap options. All you're doing is, like you said, you get there, 3 years later, you're fired and you're back on the coaching market.
Yeah, it's an interesting market this year because there's just not that slam dunk coach or slam dunk spot that you'd want to go to. Last year, I thought the Bears were that. The Bears are like, you've got your quarterback, and Ben Johnson was the guy. Hell, the Patriots were a really intriguing spot, and we knew Mike Vrabel. That's a really good coaching candidate. So there were natural fits for both of the best jobs that had the quarterback already in place. They also had some other stuff, though. Meanwhile, you look at the Giants, you look at the Titans, Raiders that don't have a whole lot in there in a really tough division. Yeah, the Browns, my God, man, good luck.
Is that the worst job?
I think the Cardinals is the worst job.
I think it's definitely up.
You're in a really good division.
I'd take the Browns over the Cardinals.
Ownership has mostly been a disaster. I think I saw a stat the other day that they've never had a coach last more than 6 years in the history of the organization.
They're going to be out like $50 million when they walk away from their quarterback.
Yeah, you're resetting at the quarterback position. You're putting $50 million against the cap. It's just a really bad spot.
What the Saints were last year of how awful of a job that is, they're the Cardinals are the new Saints.
But in a harder division. At least in the NFC South, you knew, hey, this thing's wide open. You could at least be competitive.
Yeah,
good
wide
luck
open.
competing against the Rams, the Seahawks, and the 49ers.
Yeah, 8-9 is what everyone has in the NFC
100%.
South.
Like the Saints could compete for the division next year.
Hell,
I don't think it would shock any of us.
They were 2 wins away this year.
Which is incredible because I swear I saw their record at the final game of the year against the Falcons. I went, no, that can't be right. That's got to be a typo, right? I swear they were a 3-win team.
I saw them beat the Buccaneers too, man. It was a lot of fun.
Somebody on the text line said, guys, Pierce was fantastic for the Falcons this year. That's the defensive end that they traded their first-round pick a year ago to select. He was very good for them. They have the 13th overall pick this year. I'm not trading the 13th overall pick a year in advance to select a guy in the late 20s.
Well, the good news is you weren't getting a quarterback at 13th overall this year if you were the Falcons. So,
however, you could have traded up from 13, your second-round pick, and maybe next year's first, and go get your quarterback at like number 2 overall. Maybe you could have gone and selected Dante Moore.
We're going to do that, I think.
It's wild how trades happen in the NFL. How a first and a second get you to 2 overall. Meanwhile, in the NHL,
first, second, and a future first.
Okay, I was going to say. Meanwhile, in the NHL, you got to trade like 4 first-round picks to move up 3 spots.
Alongside Alex and T-Bone on BK in 15 minutes. What is your level of intrigue in this year's college football playoff semifinal game? I do think the schedule is playing into this a bit. There's a lack of buzz because the NFL playoffs begin this weekend as well. Are you guys invested in what we're going to see in the semifinals? We'll get into that in 15 minutes. Questions and answers is next here on 101 ESPN. All right, 314-399-9646. That's the Air Comfort Service text line for questions and answers. If you guys have any questions, go ahead and get them in right now. From the 314, BK, last week you said you thought the college football playoff would be correct in having teams with byes win this year. Now that the home team with the bye is 1-7 and the one win was a complete mismatch. To be fair, it was Indiana versus Alabama.
Mismatch.
Does your outlook change on the bye? If so, what, in your opinion, should be the fix? No bye at all, consolidated schedule, so the bye is only 1 week off and not 20-plus days, etc. Or would you do the same schedule, but with games on campus until the semifinals? All right. A lot there. I think last year, you have to throw out the data because the teams that got the bye were all the conference champions, and it just threw everything off. They weren't actually the top 4 teams in the country. This year, you had much better data on, is this too much? Is the bye that exists in college football for the semi or the quarterfinal teams, are they just off for too long? Is there too much rust for them? I would still say probably no. Ohio State, that game was really close up until the last quarter, basically. And I think Miami just beat them up in the trenches. I don't think that was about them not having the right or having too much rest. I think it was about Miami being better up front. And that's a tale as old as time in college football. I think Indiana's the best team in the country, and they were going to kick the crap out of whoever they played, no matter what. Georgia basically had Ole Miss beat and then gave it up. So this wasn't a rust problem. This was Ole Miss beat them in the end. And then Texas Tech, like, they had a great season, and they fell flat just the way that we all thought was potentially possible with their offense struggling. So I don't think this was a bye issue. I think we're trying to make a little too much out of 1 year of data.
Yeah, Texas Tech wasn't a bye rust issue. Texas Tech was, we just don't have an offense that could compete against this defense.
That was always, if they were going to lose, this was the way that it was going to look.
Like, if Georgia came out and looked like Texas Tech did offensively, then I could at least look at, like, oh, yeah, rust, because the offense isn't connected and, like, what's going on here. But they were competitive with them. They lost the game.
Yeah, I think it's a great point by BK to throw out last year's buys because, like, Boise State got a bye. Like, come on. But, like, this year, I agree. I do think 21 days is too much. I think it should be, if we fix the calendar, you get, like, a week off like they do in the NFL, because 21 days is a lot and there would be rust. But in saying that, all 4 teams that had the bye outside of Texas Tech and Ohio State, it's not like all 4 of them started off very slow. It was really just those 2. Indiana, first drive, kind of slowed down, and then boom, they took off. Georgia took off from the get-go in that game. They just couldn't get stops.
314-399-9646 is the Air Comfort Service text line. Really like this question from the 314. If you had zero knowledge of previous seasons, who would be your Super Bowl pick this year? Basically, I'm saying you don't have any bias toward the Bills or the Eagles or anybody else because we know what they were in the playoffs.
So I'm just looking at their team right now without any history.
Just like eliminate all of the history of what we have seen from them. You're just solely judging them on 2025 leading into this year's playoffs.
That one's easy. Seahawks and Patriots.
It's definitely thinking Seahawks.
Seahawks would be the biggest benefactor of this.
Yeah.
Because I wouldn't have any knowledge of what Sam Darnold has done in the past.
Poor Sammy D.
I don't know.
I would say the Seahawks and the Jags.
I was thinking Jags too, AFC. Because Patriots is up there for me. The only reason I wouldn't say Patriots, and I don't think this is a erase history, it's I haven't seen Drake May in the playoffs.
He was
so I don't
the
know what he's going to
MVP
look
of the
like.
season, though, so I'm going to go with the MVP.
Stafford.
I also
lost to Stafford.
I just wonder, as we now get into the playoffs, like, who scares you on the Patriots? Set aside Drake May, because obviously he does, but who on the Patriots, offensively or defensively, if we're being real, scares you?
Well, who scares you on Jacksonville if you set aside Trevor Lawrence?
Trevor Etienne.
Yeah, but Travis
God,
Etienne.
I always do that.
Travis Etienne scares you because of Trevor Lawrence.
No.
Because
Travis Etienne's had a really good season.
Henderson's had a really good year with New England.
I think the Jags, overall, their offense, I think they have much better weapons.
I agree.
I think Jacoby Myers would be basically the equivalent. I know people will say that this is crazy because of the name recognition, but Jacoby Myers and Stephon Diggs at this point in their respective careers are pretty similar in terms of the caliber of players. Brian Thomas Jr. is better than any of the other receivers on the Patriots. And then they also have a guy in Parker Washington that's shown up in a big way over the last 6 weeks or so.
Yeah, but I mean, I'm not going to put the quarterback aside. The quarterback is the reason they are so
Totally
dominant,
fair.
and he, in my opinion, is an MVP, and I'll back an MVP if I'm looking at just this season.
That's fair. Yeah, I would go Jags versus the Seahawks would be my answer.
Yeah, I think I would go that as well. Texans are the other one I would consider here too. Because, well, granted,
They almost lost to the Raiders, though.
Yeah, that's fair. But like, they're kind of the same story of Seattle a little bit, where they're led by their defense. C.J. Stroud is a very good quarterback, and they seem to be peaking at the right time. Like that feels like a formula for this version of the playoffs that we're going to see. That whoever got hot going in might be the team that continues to be hot. So Jacksonville, Houston, those teams that have been playing well might be the ones that can get to the Super Bowl.
I don't think the Texans would be the team I'd say will be in the Super Bowl, like if I'm looking at this season, but they'd be the team that I'd say they're going to probably upset somebody.
Like the Steelers as the 4 seed?
No. Steelers are just happy to be here.
All right, last one here from the 314. Based on what we saw at practice today, are Stenberg and Bergeron playing?
Yes, they're playing.
Excuse me. Are Stenberg and Bergeron playing Joseph or Bukestad and Fabry off of the roster once everybody is healthy? See, it's a bit of a confusing question.
Yeah,
but do you
you're
think
fine.
that the way that Stenberg and Bergeron have been playing, has that potentially pushed Joseph, Bukestad, Fabry, one of those three or multiple of those three off of the roster?
I would say no to Bukestad, but Joseph and Fabry, yes. But that decision won't needed to be made until probably post-Olympics. Unless Bukestad just all of a sudden is ready to go. They made it seem like he's still a little bit of ways, even if he is skating. And Holloway just got on the ice today, and I don't think he's going to be coming back. And Pew Suter we haven't seen. So, like, when Walker comes back, Suter will go on IR, and you still are fine. And then it's when those next three come back, you have to make 3 roster moves. If it's me, Stenberg does not go down, and I don't waive Bergeron because they've shown me more than any of the other guys on the roster have in a matter of 8 games. So my first move would be put Fabry through waivers. My next move would probably be to put Joseph through waivers. And then the third move, it really comes down to, is there a trade that I can make, or do I have to put Stenberg down in the minors?
Alongside Alex and T-Bone, I'm BK. Coming up next, what's your level of intrigue in this year's college football playoff semifinal games? They're all taking place later on this week. T-Bone has an interesting perspective on that. He'll share it next here on 101 ESPN. Man, some bummer news for Mizzou. According to On3 Sports, Missouri defensive end Damon Wilson plans to enter the NCAA transfer portal. I changed my mind. I don't like the portal anymore.
Oh, we're over it now?
Was way more fun
He was
an hour
already
ago
committed.
when it was just a bunch of players that Mizzou was adding, not guys that were being subtracted from the roster.
The portal giveth, the portal taketh away. But hey, man, 10-2 now.
I mean, they had
this
a
a
great
BKO?
season with
Yeah, this is absolutely a BKO.
BKO, 10 a.m. this morning. We're
11 and
going
1.
11-1, 11 o'clock this morning. I love the portal. This is the best thing ever. You get to redo your roster every year. 12 o'clock. Oh, crap, there goes our best edge rusher.
Man,
Well, they've got some kids coming in that are edge rushers, so
that quick, man.
Makes sense now.
yeah, it makes sense as to why they have so much money to potentially throw around if Damon Wilson is entering the portal. One of the things that had been a conversation is, does he enter the NFL draft? And obviously it's still on the table for him, but entering the portal doesn't necessarily mean he leaves, but it allows him to.
BK's hoping he'll enter.
market
He'll
himself
go to the
elsewhere.
draft instead.
Yeah, I would rather that.
Makes it feel a little bit better.
This is the era. We talked about it in the Open today. You're a free agent every year. If Damon Wilson wants to go get paid by somebody else, he put up 9 sacks this year for Mizzou. He was an awesome player for them. Now he wants to go do the same thing next year for Bama or Texas Tech or Texas or whomever. Go do it, young man. Like I wish him nothing but the best. He was a great player this year for Missouri. I was hoping we would get one more year of it. They'll have to replace him with somebody younger. And I do wonder if maybe that's a little bit of the emphasis that we're seeing here from Drinkwitz as well. So many of the players that they're bringing in have multiple years of eligibility remaining. So maybe they're trying to get like a 2-year window, a 3-year window to potentially go out there and do something special. All right. So that is the college football transfer portal news.
Not as happy about it.
That has come to the forefront for so many of these programs right now, so that's stealing headlines. The NFL playoffs begin this weekend. That is stealing headlines. I'm looking at the Pat McAfee show right now. They're breaking down Super Wild Card Weekend. Guys, we're 2 days away from Miami versus Ole Miss, a college football semifinal, and then 3 days away from Oregon versus Indiana. Both of these games are a 3-point line one way or the other. It's basically a toss-up performance. And there's very little buzz surrounding the games. T-Bone, I want to start with you. Are you excited about this? Do you have the same buzz or excitement that you feel like you normally do?
I feel like I have it for the Friday game, Indiana-Oregon. Like that one, I think is going to be an extremely fun college football semifinal game. Indiana, as we've said all along as a show, is legitimately a great football team, and they're not getting the credit they deserve because they're Indiana. But they are a great, dominant football team, and Oregon's a team that pushed them to the test earlier this year in Eugene. So, like, that game to me is actually going to be really fun, and I think Oregon gets is underrated from the national perspective because they were the third team of the Big Ten. Oregon, Ohio State Ohio State, Indiana were reviewed as the best, and Oregon kind of was just the sleeping giant. I have no interest in Thursday's game. I'm going to watch it because it is football, and let's be honest, there's nothing else on this Thursday. I don't know what it is. Like Ole Miss, Miami, I guess it's because it's two teams I didn't expect to be here, and there's the crap that's been going on with Ole Miss, not to their own fault, by the way, because of Lane Kiffin and all the headlines that are generated with, was he staying, will he go, oh, he goes, now what are the assistants doing? Like, it was reported today their play caller is, in fact, staying, which I thought was going to be the case, but you didn't really know. I have no interest in that game. And I don't know why that is. Because, I'm not someone that is I like SEC football. I need to see SEC Big Ten. No, I'm cool with other surprise programs. But Miami just doesn't do it for me. Maybe it's because they have to win in, ugly fashion. They have to make it a dogfight, which is not entertaining. Ole Miss has a fun offense, but I don't know. I don't get the buzz for them. I don't have much interest in Thursday's semifinals.
See, I'm the opposite of that. It's playoff football for me, so I don't care who's playing. I'm going to watch it, and I'm going to be excited for it. I have no rooting interest on any of these teams, to be honest with you. And specifically with Ole Miss and Miami, I kind of hate watching both of them because it's Ole Miss and the Lane Kiffin saga, and I've made it pretty clear I don't like Carson Beck. But it's still playoff football for me, and to me, that's must-watch no matter what. And it doesn't matter who's playing. Once the playoffs begin, I'm all in on it.
I love it. I'm super excited about these games. I think T-Bone is representing a lot of common fans, though. There's no blue blood here. These teams are all kind of new money. And I think for as much as people complain about the old guard being a part of this, I've talked about this in the NFL with man, you're going to miss it when the Chiefs aren't around anymore. People miss it that Tom Brady's not around anymore.
That's not true.
Peyton Manning, he was always around, and then he was gone, and they kind of missed having him there as a part of this thing. The same thing is true for these Tiffany programs that are typically around at this point in the year. You can just lean on them and know, man, that's the benchmark. If you beat them, you must be special. And it's hard for us, I'll speak for myself, it's hard for me to adjust my mind to Indiana being that program. Like if Oregon beats Indiana on Friday night, that's special, dude. To beat this team in this season, the way that they've been kicking the crap out of everybody, that would be like beating Alabama or Georgia or Clemson in the past. So I want to find out, does Oregon have that in them? And with this Ole Miss versus Miami game, dude, Miami, I don't know how much this appeals to casual fans, and I'm not saying that in a derogatory way. Their line of scrimmage is full of ass kickers. I mean, their defensive line has 2 future top 50 selections. Their offensive line has a couple future NFLers. And then Ole Miss, you look at them, and it's kind of the opposite, where their defense is just okay. But their offense, the playmakers are special.
They got a quarterback that's fun to watch.
Is so much fun to watch. So there should be a lot of buzz around these games, and I think this all kind of goes back to the scheduling of it. It's just really poor timing because so many college football fans are fans first of their team and second of the sport, and so they're following the transfer portal at a time when these games are taking place, or the national news is covering all of the NFL games that are taking place this weekend. And so it kind of gets lost in the shuffle. Plus, the games are on Thursday and Friday night.
Just weird.
Instead of on a weekend and not during the holidays. Like, people are working Thursday. They go back to work on Friday, and you've got a 6:30 kickoff for this game that'll probably end at 10:30 on Thursday night. It's just not great timing. So if you could push the season up into the season closer to January 1st when people are still on holiday, I think that would help with the buzz and the intrigue for a lot of these games as well, even if it is still Miami versus Ole Miss and Oregon versus Indiana.
Yeah, I mean, I totally get that. I mean, the scheduling really makes it all about it to where you're not focused on your team's losses like BK is right now with Tim Wilson going away.
Okay,
but
chill, man.
You're
Also
more
focused on the additions.
You're focused on the playoffs. No, not so much anymore, are you, big boy? But
Sucks, man.
I also I look at it as an awesome weekend because it's just football every single day. With the NFL, it's tied together. So I get the transfer portal, but as a common college football fan where I don't have one team that I'm dedicated to, man, it's great to just go 2 playoff games and then you get the NFL playoffs in an entire weekend.
Yeah, and I think you are right. I do think the scheduling of this hurts. But I also think it is just the lack of the blue bloods, too, like you're saying. Because Miami and Oregon are kind of blue bloods, but it's not the Alabama, the Georgia. There is no villain this year in college football. And I think that's the other thing. I wouldn't call Indiana a villain. I think more people actually like Indiana. I hate Indiana, but that's mostly because I was there when they killed Illinois.
There is, however, a Cinderella.
Ole Miss.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's fair.
I think people are
But I feel like you need the
for
Cinderella and the villain. Am I wrong or no? Can you have just one, not the other?
No, I think you can have the Cinderella.
That's an interesting question. You can, the NCAA tournament, when there is a Cinderella, they become the story.
Yeah.
Right? When you have Loyola of Chicago, they're the story. It doesn't matter what else is going on. It's Sister Jean. That is the story, regardless of who the other teams that remain. When you have a George Mason run, they're the story. And that's kind of, to me, what this year's playoff has been. It's twofold. One, Indiana should not be here. This shouldn't be possible. They are undefeated with the future #1 overall selection and maybe the best coach in college football who just re-signed and turned down, blue blood type of programs. He turned down Penn State to stay at Indiana with a team that might win the national championship this year. That's a crazy story. Meanwhile, another team might be a bigger Cinderella than them because their coach left them 2 weeks ago while they were in the midst of a potential playoff run. And they just had an unbelievable win over one of those Tiffany programs that we're talking about, who they lost to earlier this season with a former, Division III starter as their quarterback who entered the season as their backup and is now putting together just a miraculous postseason. I mean, the storylines are pretty remarkable. Miami hasn't done this in 25 years. Their coach, I don't think he's a good coach, but he's doing it. So, he's proven me wrong.
And then there's the Ducks.
Yeah, and then there's Oregon, they've arrived at this place a number of times in the past, and they just can't break through. can they finally do it? Is Dan Lanning the coach that can break through in a way that Chip Kelly never could, in a way that Cristobal never could?
I think people are getting a little excited about Oregon because of what they did against Texas Tech and not realizing that, hey, you held a Texas Tech offense scoreless that,
I mean, they
Oregon's
nearly
really
beat
good.
Indiana. Indiana should have one loss, and it should be to Oregon.
I don't see it as tight of a game, Oregon and Indiana.
Oh, I don't know. I think Indiana wins, and I think it's probably like a last second.
I feel like Indiana
wow.
is night and day better.
I do too. But I want to see it. I'm curious.
That's why I'm going to watch.
I think what you really want to see is NFL Super Wild Card Weekend.
Is that what they call it now?
I love that we have Thursday, Ole Miss versus Miami. Friday, Oregon versus Indiana.
Honestly.
Saturday,
Rams, Panthers.
Wild Card Weekend. Sunday, Wild Card Weekend. Monday night, Wild Card Weekend. It goes all the way through the weekend wrapping around.
Honestly.
So, if you're a football fan, couldn't really ask for a whole lot
Guys,
more.
what are we doing? The Blues play Vegas on Saturday. We should be there from Thursday until Sunday for all of the NFL and college football action.
Oh, in Vegas?
Yeah.
Sounds great. Let's go.
I always try and match up a Vegas trip around this weekend.
Sounds fantastic.
Let's do it.
I'm in.
BK and Ferrario out on the town.
BK and Ferrario on the strip.
Well, me and BK on the strip. Ferrario on bed by 9 o'clock.
Oh, no. I'm a different animal in Vegas.
Alongside Alex and
Vegas is
Steve on
different.
BK. 314-399-9646. That's the Air Comfort Service text line. You guys give us a scenario. We will tell you if we are betting it or forgetting it next here on 101 ESPN. 314-399-9646. That's the Air Comfort Service text line for Bet It or Forget It. You guys give us a scenario. We will tell you if we are betting it or forgetting it here on 101 ESPN. Before we get to that, though, I want to pass this along. Comes from Gabe DeArmond of PowerMizzou.com. It is official. Damon Wilson plans to enter the transfer portal. He confirmed that on social media. Gabe adding multiple sources around Mizzou football were unaware of Damon Wilson's official entry when it happened and have not had contact with him in recent days. Oof. Wilson, for those that were unfamiliar with his story, is also in the middle of a lawsuit pressed against him by Georgia's Athletic Association and its collective over his departure from Athens. Tuesday marks exactly 1 year to the day since Wilson entered the transfer portal in 2025.
And people say college football has problems.
Mizzou got him for a reason. They were the highest bidder. They're probably losing him for a reason. My guess is somebody else is the highest bidder. God bless him. The game is the game. You got him for this reason. You lose him for the same reason. I hope he goes on and has success. I hope Mizzou's able to replace him with somebody else. All right, let's get into Bet It or Forget It here on 101 ESPN. Guys, bet it or forget it. Both college football playoff semifinal games will be decided by 3 or fewer points.
Forget it. I think Indiana wins by at least a touchdown.
I'm saying forget it. I think Miami will bully Ole Miss.
Wow.
So I think Indiana is going to have a tough time with Oregon, especially because it's the second time they've seen them. And it's been kind of a theme of the playoff. The second time around, the team that lost the first time has won so far, except for Tulane over Ole Miss. But we knew that one wasn't going to happen. So I would say forget it. I think it's going to be Miami will beat Ole Miss pretty handily.
I agree with both sides. I think that I think both favorites will win by more than 3. I think Indiana will beat Oregon by 7-10, and I think Miami will win by 7-10 as well. That Miami offensive and defensive line has made a believer out of me. Maybe too much so. Maybe I'm overcorrecting, but I think it's pretty special. Alex, what do you got for us today?
This one will pull right at the heartstrings of our own Brandon Kiley, guys. Uh-oh. Bet it or forget it. Nolan Arenado starts more games at third base than Nolan Gorman this year.
For the Cardinals? No. Forget it.
I'll lean forget it still for now, but
1 is greater than 0, so
I can't wait for his first start.
Are we counting spring training games? Like, he may still be here at spring training. For how slow this mark is moving.
At third base.
He might be getting more games there.
Brandon said he cannot come back, which means he cannot start on spring training.
All right. Well, what are we going to lock? You're going to get the famous meme of him going up with the key card. My key card won't work.
I don't
Why
work
won't
here
my key
anymore.
card work? Yeah, I would forget it, though. I'm still leaning towards he's either traded or he gets released. I believe there's a bigger chance he's back, but I will stick with the side that Heim will try and get rid of him.
If he gets released, what if he gets signed by the Dodgers? I don't think they would, but
I hate to say this because Nolan Arenado is a Hall of Famer, but there's a reason that you're not hearing a lot of the great teams connected to him because they're smart.
Yeah.
And he's an aging, old veteran on a bad contract right now. And even if you eat a lot of that money, he's not a good player that much anymore in his career.
You're right. We agree.
Thank you.
Go ahead, T-Bone.
That's why he will sign with, like, the Angels. Guys, bet it or forget it. We will see a 4 seed in the NFL playoffs win this weekend.
Forget it.
Not going to
The
believe
4
in the
seeds
home
are the
field.
2 worst divisional winners for those curious why T-Bone picked those specifically.
Not going to believe in the home field. We've seen this in the past, though.
I think we should believe in the Panthers taking down the juggernaut Rams.
I don't think the Rams are covering 10, by the way. Like, that's too high a spread.
I don't.
I agree. I forget it, but I've got my alarm bells are going off.
Put your money where your mouth is. Pay BK and I $100 if one of those 4 teams win.
Texans are only a 3-point favorite.
Yeah, like
it's not crazy to believe the Steelers would win that game. I don't think they will.
It's very crazy to think Aaron Rodgers is going to be able to put up any points against that defense.
That's my thing.
How offensive line stopping the Texans' rush?
How are the Steelers scoring in that game? The over-under set at 39.5. That feels really high to me.
Yeah, the only reason they're in the playoffs is because the Baltimore Ravens kicker missed the field goal.
What if?
And we'd be saying the same damn thing about the Ravens.
It's not about how many points the Steelers have to score because the Texans' offense, outside like the last 4 weeks, had looked like crap.
Cool. I think the Texans' defense will outscore Pittsburgh's offense.
Also,
I don't
the
think
last
Rodgers
4
is
weeks,
turning the ball over.
Saying that the last 4 weeks they've been pretty good speaks to the fact that for 4 weeks they were good. The Steelers haven't been good all year.
Again, they shouldn't even be in the playoffs right now. No chance. Panthers have a better chance
Do
than the
either of them
Steelers.
cover? I'll ask that question.
I do not think the Steelers will. I can see the Panthers doing it.
10.5's a lot.
Yeah.
And that Rams team's in a little weird spot right now.
Can you name the top 3 players in targets for the Steelers this year?
Metcalf's got to be one.
He's number 1. He's got
And he's
99 targets
He's
this year.
back. That's
Okay.
He averages 55 yards per game.
Freiermuth.
He is number 4.
He's not even top
Gainwell?
He's number 2 with
Okay, I was gonna say
85
Gainwell.
targets on the
Checks out.
season.
That checks out. He was a good waiver wire
3.
pickup for me.
3. Who else is on that? Is it?
I can't even name the other wide
Who's
receiver.
the former Chief that's on the team?
No, Marquez Valdez-Scantling. He's got
not him.
21 targets.
Oh, he's newer. That's right.
What's
Not
the
Thielen.
other tight end other than Freiermuth? I don't even know what his name is.
Washington. He has 43. He's at like 7th. He's behind.
That's a big deal. That's
one
like
other
6'7".
tight end at
Is it a guy
Jonnu
that-
Smith and another running back and Jalen Warren.
Is it like a guy that's not even on the roster
Calvin
anymore?
Austin. Calvin Austin has 55 targets so far this season for 370 yards.
They're not going to score a point. Maybe though.
Out of their top 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 targets, 3 are tight ends and 2 are running backs.
I'll put it. I
And
think special teams scores
They don't
more
throw to
points
receivers, dude.
than the offense.
As the Steelers said, this is our all-in year.
Yeah.
With that cast, come on.
All right, 314-399-9646. That's the Air Comfort Service text line for Bet It or Forget It. Guys, bet it or forget it. The Blues will have 3 first-round picks in next year's NHL draft.
3 first-round picks? I'm going to forget this one. They're going off of Shen and Falk getting traded. They're not going to keep all 3 picks.
I'm going to forget it as well. And it's not so much that I don't think it's that they would keep 3 picks. I don't know they're going to have 3 number 1s. I think they will get 1 for Falk. I don't think they get 1 for Shen.
I think they get one for
for
Shen.
Shen they get an early second or like a prospect rather than a late first-round pick. Honestly, he's another one. I have a tough time valuing him. Now, I know the NHL is different and they love the effort and compete and leadership thing. He's not worth a first-round pick if you're trading for him at his current salary / the way he's playing right now.
I agree.
And that's why I'm hesitant to say they get a first one. I think Falk they definitely do.
I don't think he's worth a first-round pick, but it doesn't matter what I think. It matters what the league values him as.
And they will pay a first round for him.
The league values these middle 6 centers that are tough, have playoff success in their history, and play that specific style. Like I'm not telling you have to like it, but the rest of the league values it that way. I mean, look at what the Maple Leafs gave up last year for a guy that was playing on their 4th line by the playoffs.
They value it for the playoffs. They don't value it for the rest of the regular season. Shen last year had 2 goals and 3 points in 7 games in the playoffs. They value that for a playoff run, and it's worth a first-round pick. The other thing, I don't know if Doug's wanting first-round picks. It might be players for both guys.
All right, bet it or forget it. The Super Bowl champion this season will be a team that has never won it before. Chargers, Jags, Bills, Texans, or Panthers. I'll forget it. I think the Rams are going to win it this year.
Still? No, I would say
I
I
got
would
the
say bet
Rams
it.
over the Jags.
I would say bet it. I think the Bills win it.
I'm going to forget it as well. Because I think the winner's coming out of the NFC. I've lost some faith in the Rams, but I know for a fact the Panthers aren't winning it. So I will say forget it because I think the winner's coming out of the NFC.
I think the NFC has the best teams. I'm starting to buy back into the Eagles. Like I'm doing that. I mentioned it earlier, the playoff basketball stuff that I'm doing.
It's not a Sunday. This is why.
So here's part of it. One, I like the matchup against the 49ers. That defense is so injured right now. I just don't think they can get many stops. And even though the Eagles offense has looked so bad for most of the season, I think that you're going to see them look good on Sunday or this weekend, even if they're not actually a great offense. And then the next round, they would play against either the Bears or the Packers, most likely. Do you guys, do you think that one of those 2 teams is going to beat the Eagles?
I think the Bears could.
Okay.
I think the 49ers can, but yeah, I would think that the Bears could. I don't think Packers can. I don't think Packers are beating Bears.
I think the 49ers beat the Eagles this week.
Okay.
Yeah. I think what you're saying is why I'm hesitant to take them in the first round. Because I've seen multiple times this year where they go up now, when they would play like awful defenses like the Raiders, they would look like a good offense. But I would see them go up against like an average defense, and they still look bad. I think their offense can drag them down to the level of any team in this playoff field outside of Carolina and Pittsburgh.
Okay. I think they've got a pretty good path. And as I look at it and I see kind of the the path to the Super Bowl, the Eagles are a team that I'm starting to believe in more. By the way, if you want to play on Underdog, the playoff best ball stuff, I'll explain it real quick because it's kind of tough to do so in like 30 seconds. Basically, you're doing a draft. You're in a pod of 6 different teams. Alex, I got you in on these a couple of years ago.
You still owe me money from that winnings that you have.
Yeah, no, for
we
sure.
were in at 50-50, and then you just completely robbed me. That's fine.
So you're drafting against 5 other teams. It's a snake draft. And you end up getting, I think it's like 10 players overall that you select over the course of this draft. It takes like 15, 20 minutes. Super easy. And you're trying to have as many players as possible that are still playing by the time you get to the Super Bowl, because that's when your team can actually win the money, right? Like by advancing, you win some money, but like a few years ago, I won a tournament and got $5,000 because of it. So the big money is available for you by winning it once you get to the Super Bowl. But you have to advance. So you've got to advance each week. So your players have to be able to get you to that point and then win it once you get there. So there's a lot of strategy that goes into it. Like this week, Seahawks and Broncos players wouldn't get you any points because they're not playing. But you could draft them so that way they could get you points once you get to the divisional round. So it's a lot of fun. And when I do it in the past, I just pick a lot of Chiefs. Because I know they're going to continue advancing along. This year, it becomes a lot more difficult.
Stick to that strategy, buddy.
Because,
This guy drafting Mahomes.
because you don't have an obvious selection. And that's why I'm going with a decent number of Eagles. Reason I bring that back to tie it back in. I think they've got a really good offensive path to the Super Bowl potentially, because they could put up a bunch of points against the 49ers, potentially a bunch of points against the Bears or the Packers, because those defenses have not been performing well either. So in a playoff fantasy football format, I think the Eagles are a really good team to target this year.
I think the Rams have the best path out of the NFC. And I don't know if that's the homer me or
Seahawks,
not.
though.
Well, if the 49ers win, like I'm expecting, then the 49ers get the Seahawks, and the Rams end up getting, who would it be in that case? It would
Packers
be the Bears.
or Bears.
And, like, I think the Rams would match up great with the Bears because I think Stafford would pick apart that defense, and then you only got to win one game against either the 49ers or the Seahawks. And I've seen the Rams play tight with the Seahawks. They win that last game if it wasn't for a stupid 2-point conversion. So I think the Rams have the best path. Now, if they run into the Eagles in the second round, that's when things would get a little harder for them, but they would probably go to Seattle if that's the scenario that plays out.
My tax man from the 314, BK, did you report that 5K? Yes, I did. There's no way to avoid it. They'll send you a tax form. So you get that.
Should have only been 2,500, but, you know.
Still would have had to report it.
BK still wouldn't send it.
Alongside Alex and T-Bone, I'm BK. Alex didn't want to report.
I thought 50-50 meant we're in 50-50.
Coming up in 15 minutes, we'll dive into the junk drawer. But next, Robert Thomas is finding his game again, but the depth scoring has once again disappeared. So now what? We'll talk about it next year on 101 ESPN. Alex, we just got a text from the 314. BK, what is this league and where do I find it? Also, how much does it cost to enter? It's the Underdog app. It's all available for you over there. Get in on all of the action. It's super easy to use for the playoffs. They have best ball. That's the format that I personally like, Alex.
Yeah.
That's what I was talking about. You can enter into all of these different contests over there. There's different formats. You could join in for as little as $5. You could also spend $250 on a team if that's more your lane. So it's all available for you on the Underdog app. If you prefer, you can also do what we've been telling you about all season long, which is taking higher or lower on your favorite players on some of their stats, touchdowns, rushing yards, receptions, so much more. Get them right. You could win up to 5,000 times your cash.
And in a moment, I'm going to tell you how you can get $75 to use. And if BK, that's like 75 different mitten teams that he's going to be able to put out there. But I'm going to go the NHL route for you. A big play, as always. I'm going with points on NHL players. Dvorak, Leo Carlson, Braden Point, Martin Necas, Seth Jarvis, all higher on points. Pays 12-1 if you get your selections correct. So what are you waiting for? Download the Underdog app today. Use promo code BKO to score $75 in bonus entries when you play your first $5. That's promo code BKO. Underdog, make plays, win money. Must be 18 plus and present in Missouri. Terms apply. See assets.underdogfantasy.com/web/play and get terms. _DFS_.html for details. Concerned with your play, call 1-800-GAMBLER. Visit www.ncpgambling.org.
Tanner Hendrickson here. The Sports Center update brought to you by Saliga Heating and Cooling. Blues off again today. They'll be back in action tomorrow as they visit the Chicago Blackhawks. We'll have pregame coverage tomorrow night starting at 7:30 with Alex Ferrario. Puck drop at 8:30 with Chris Kerber and Joey Vitale. The Sports Center update was brought to you by Saliga Heating and Cooling, a Daikin Heating and Air Conditioning dealer.
Alongside Alex and T-Bone, I'm BK. So Robert Thomas is starting to do the thing again, where midway through the season, he picks up his play. In his last 14 games, Robert Thomas has 6 goals and 13 points, Alex. I think the head coach of the St. Louis Blues, Jim Montgomery, was it after the Montreal game, said that was his best game of the season?
Yeah.
He's He's been very good. In this time, he's winning 55% of his faceoffs. He is basically playing even with the opposing team's top lines, and that's noteworthy considering the teams that the Blues have played against recently. Like even against Colorado, he's only a -2, which given the way that game went, it's a pretty good number.
Kept Jack Eichel off the board, that entire line off the board.
He has been playing top lines to a stalemate. That's really all you can ask for this specific team. The problem is the rest of the team has stopped scoring. So early on this year, the Blues had a top line problem. They had a top players problem. Now they have an everything else problem. Thomas in his last 13 games, 12 points. Booch over that time, 9 points. Justin Falk, 7 points. That guy's having a ridiculous season. Your fourth leading point producer in your last 13 games as a team is Berggren, who has played in 8 of those 13 games. He has 5 points. He's tied with Jake Neighbors at 5, Dvorsky with 5, Stenberg with 5. In other words, it's the young players. Meanwhile, Braden Shin has 4 and is a -7. Broberg has 3. Oscar Sundqvist 2, Jimmy Snuggerud 2, Jordan Kyrou 1. You're just lacking any of this depth scoring. By the way, Pius Suter 0 points in his last 9 games.
Yeah, I think he's been dealing with an injury for like the last month, and he's just been pushing through it.
Is this going to be whack-a-mole all year? Early on, it was the goaltending. Then it was the top players aren't playing the way that you need them to. Now it appears that it's, some of this is injury-related, sure, but other teams are dealing with injuries as well. Now it is the depth of scoring that's an issue for them. Is this going to get fixed at any point, Alex?
My concern is it gets fixed in the last month and a half of the season when you've just been toying with it all along, and then you make a run, and then everyone thinks things are fixed. That's my concern. I don't think it stays this way all season long, but it's hard to argue against it. They were healthy in the first 2 months of the season, and they were awful. The offense wasn't there. Your best players weren't performing, and this whole season has been whack-a-mole. So it's hard for me to sit here and say, when they get Holloway and Bukestad back on top of all of these other guys, then they'll figure it out. They've been way too inconsistent all season long. All of the forwards have. Everybody is just on different wavelengths. Maybe it's the line combinations getting juggled up. I don't believe in that. I just think it's the commitment to playing the style. Man, there's times, though, that I watch, when Robert Thomas plays, like he did against Montreal. You look around and you're he just doesn't have the same level of talent around him to make some of those plays happen. And I'm not, trying to shoot down any of these players, but Robert Thomas on that shorthanded goal showed his excellence on what he can do. I was talking with the scout in that Canadians game, and he said, at the beginning of the season, Thomas was the shoo-in, in our opinion, for the Olympics. But Nick Suzuki came out, dominated, and Thomas didn't. And he said, I think Thomas can be what Nick Suzuki is. He's just not there. But I also look over at Montreal, and I see Cole Caulfield, who plays on the line with Nick Suzuki, and every high-level play Nick Suzuki pulls off, Cole Caulfield is right there ready to hammer it home. And the Blues don't have that on the top line. Kyrou and Thomas don't work. Pavel Buchnevich and Robert Thomas just have not worked for a couple of years now. Jake Neighbors at times looks good, but you don't have a guy who can just score with Thomas.
It should be Snuggerud, in my opinion.
And I think it will be Snuggerud. There's just the injury on top of the growing pains of the NHL.
It's a lot to put on a young player. It's a lot to have that kind of defensive responsibility that we know. I mean, Thomas plays some of the toughest minutes in the NHL, and also expect him to be, one of your top goal producers. It's a lot of expectation. The text line, 314-399-9646, that's the Air Comfort Service text line from Harrison's brother Master. Guys, Kyrou has 3 goals in the last 2 months. I thought $8 million Jordan Kyrou was supposed to be this player to play with Thomas.
He was also injured for little under a month, if I'm not mistaken. 3 weeks, maybe, with that knee injury?
He has 2 goals in his last 16 games. That's not good enough. I am probably the biggest Jordan Kyrou defender, supporter, whatever you want to call it, on the 101 ESPN airwaves. I've said all along, this is what you get for $8 million. This season hasn't been that. This is not what you expect for $8 million. He has 17 points in 33 games. That's a pace of roughly 40-ish points over the course of the full season. That's not good enough. Normally, he's been like in that 70-ish range. Mm-hmm. That's closer to what you expect. He's now on pace for like 20 goals this year. Kyra's got to be better. Just full stop. He has to be better, and that's a big part of the Blues' problems this year is he has not been overall the player you expect and need him to be. But I think sometimes we get so honed in on one player that it becomes, well, this is the problem. This is an and conversation, not an or conversation to me.
Agreed.
Kyrou is a problem, and the goaltending was/is a problem, and your depth of scoring overall has not been up to snuff. And early on this season, your defensive structure was an absolute mess. All of these things can be true simultaneously, and when you put it all together, it's nice to see Thomas have this stretch of games where he's been performing as expected. But I asked you the question coming into this thing, Alex, like, is this just going to be whack-a-mole all season? That's kind of my expectation right now. I just don't think they have the dudes.
Until some of these guys continue to get their seasoning. Like, I think Snuggerud will continue to get seasoning. The same can be said for Stenberg and Berggren as they continue to kind of move along. But, yeah, this is a mixture of you don't have the same level of top players that some of the top teams do in the National Hockey League. And you also have a crop of younger players that are still trying to figure out how to play at the National Hockey League level. So you're mixture right now. And I think that's why you're seeing this whack-a-mole. But the biggest reason your whack-a-mole is here is because you don't have top players that are showing up every single night. They've shown up for 2 straight games, which has been great. But I've seen a lot of that this season where one guy has played great and he's been your best player, but then the next night he disappears. And you nailed it. This is an and, not an or problem. This is a Thomas, Buchnevich, Kyrou problem that you have not been able to develop this season. And, yeah, I can't sit here and say definitively, like, no, this whack-a-mole thing is going to carry on all season, because I saw it last year when I thought it was done, and they went on a run. They all could align at some point and go on a tear like we saw them do last year. But it's going to be hard for me to buy into it after what the first month of this season, or the first half of this season has been.
That's what I was going to say. Can they get it kind of turned around? I think it's possible where everything kind of aligns like it did last year. The problem is, are they going to do it in time? Because last year they did it coming right out of the Four Nations break. And if they don't do it right out of the Four Nations break, they probably are sellers at the deadline. And there was a debate to sell it when they lost Parayko. I think Army kind of said this when he was on, he kind of hinted at it, at least when he was on the FanDuel Sports Network broadcast the other day. You know, they're not like looking at the playoff picture when it starts in April. They're looking at it by the time we get to the deadline. Army's got to know what to do, and honestly, he's probably going to make a decision a week or two after the Olympics of what to do before the trade deadline.
I think even before the Olympics.
I think it's possible. Yeah, it's possible he does that as well. That's when he's going to be making these decisions. So it all has to align by then, and that's why I don't know that it happens in time.
Put it this way: there are 5 teams sitting in front of the Blues. 4 of those 5 teams have a negative goal differential. You combine those 4 teams' negative goal differential, it's the same amount as the Blues have this season. I don't think Doug Armstrong is going to look at if this team wins 4 in a row or plays well and says, oh, well, they figured it out. He's seen enough. And now it's a matter of, can we find something to do? Maybe not now. Maybe it's going to have to be in the offseason. But I think he has seen enough as a front office member. But now you also have to wait for another team that's willing to dance with you.
Quick, who has the worst goal differential in the NHL? Alex, don't answer this.
Logan Mayu.
Blues. Oh, are we looking at for a player or team?
Team.
Oh, it's the Blues. There's nobody close.
Minus 39.
I think the next closest is like
minus 26.
Yeah, I was going to say the next one is like 13 goals.
Yeah. I think they're probably selling, but the reason I brought that up is it's hard to sell when you're in a playoff spot. You know, and I know Army's done it before. It's also Army's last year. Is he really going out on a whimper?
No.
I don't know.
I don't think it's going to be hard for him to sell in a playoff spot. I think it's hard to make that. It's hard to have that conversation with the ownership group to say, like, hey, we're going to just forfeit playoff money. But you also, Tom Stillman's a hockey man, and you also have to lay it out. Like, look, this has been 4 years in the making. The thing about it, too, to say, like, are they going to be sellers or not? They've been sellers for the last 2 months. Nobody's willing to buy from them because everybody right now is still in the playoff race.
And for as much as we talk about the playoffs, sobering analysis of it. you have played one more game than Anaheim, who currently maintains that final wildcard spot in the Western Conference. They have 3 more points than you. If you assume they get 2 more points, they're up by 5 points on you in the playoff spot. You also are 5 points back right now of the number 2 overall selection. So you are effectively as close to picking second as you are to having a playoff spot. And that picking second is far more in line with your point differential, your goal differential on the season, than getting to the playoffs would be. So I think if we're being real, Army knows what this team is. He'll wait because he has to wait because, as Alex said, nobody's trying to make moves right now. But I think he knows where this team is heading, and I think he knows ultimately what the decisions are that need to be made. We have about 4 weeks left prior to the Olympics break. And at that point in time, I think he's going to know. Yeah. He's going to know exactly what the destination is for this team.
And it wouldn't surprise me if there's moves prior to the Olympics, because I heard Friedman talk about this on his recent podcast episode, saying that there's some general managers around the National Hockey League that want to get their shopping done now before the Olympics so that when you come back from the Olympics, your team's in place.
Alongside Alex and T-Bone on BK, the Junk Drawer is next here on 101 ESPN.
Alex Ferrario with you to talk about my friends at Classic Air Care, the company that has been making people comfortable since 1926, that's been making my home comfortable since 2016, and it's just a company that I trust when it comes to an HVAC system, the importance of that when things go wrong, when, you know, it's freezing cold outside and your heater's not working, or when it's blistering hot out and the furnace or the heater or the air conditioner's not working. You got to call the company and get that response quick, and that's what Classic Air Care offers, because they have over 100 vans that are out there on the road, so they're able to get back to you within 24 hours. And there's tons of reviews talking about their incredible customer service, the technicians that use so much knowledge when they come out, like this one from Brian. We had our HVAC system, our furnace go out in the middle of the afternoon on Thanksgiving, had Classic Air Care out there later that evening. They had their overnight and after hours on call that was available, came out, fixed it, explained what the problem was. Couldn't ask for a better technician than Brian over at Classic Air Care. So call him today, schedule online, do me a favor and tell him Alex Ferrario sent you. It's Classic Air Care and classicaircare.com.
With Alex and T-Bone on BK, time for the junk drawer. T-Bone, what do you got for us today?
Guys, you know how there are videos on YouTube that are like 10-hour loops of like just a fireplace and there's nice, relaxing music? Hey, you ever put those on in the background at all? Put those on the TV at the house to give it a nice Christmas atmosphere.
So we sometimes do that, not necessarily with like the 10-hour loop of a still image, but there are some like DJs that have sets that they'll put up there. There's a few guys that we like that do like coffee shops, and so we'll put those on like a Sunday morning and have it on as we're kind of playing with Luca in the living room or something.
So the reason that I bring this up is I've never even thought of this, but you know, when you're on YouTube and you have a channel, you know, like we've got one for 101 ESPN, you know, you get revenue from having that, from the ads that you get and all that stuff. Well, the creator of a 10-hour fireplace YouTube video has reportedly earned over $1 million from it. It's the only upload on the Fireplace 10 Hours channel, and it has over 156 million views.
Oh my God.
Just because people like you're talking about, we just put it on in the background. And at Christmas, sometimes, you know, you want something that's just a nice little background there, so you put it on the television. I never thought about.
Every once in a while, I tell Katie all the time, I'm like, man, I wasn't smart enough to come up with something like that.
Like what as
it bothers
a show,
the hell out of me.
As a show, there's got to be something we can like create that we can just loop a 10-hour video.
Too late, man. Next thing.
I know. There's got to be something that's not been out there
but
yet.
What does somebody have on their television where it's just on there all the time?
So that's the like
it's a fireplace. That's the only thing that you would do it with.
We can't do this now with YouTube. We've got to find the next
create
thing.
a new app.
Like when people got in on TikTok at the very front end, a lot of them are the ones that are now making all of the money because they developed an audience and now they're reaping the rewards from that. So you've got to be like the first. Kleenex is just tissue paper, but Kleenex is the brand that's stuck with it, right? So it's like we call tissues Kleenex.
Have you ever wiped your nose on a tissue,
Q-tips. Though? It's just
Have you ever wiped your nose on a tissue paper, though?
It's different.
It's not a soft, man.
It's not the same.
That's like 2-ply toilet paper. Somebody saw 1-ply and they said, I'm going to make 2-ply.
I'm saying here, I don't even know if you have to be the first two. I don't know when. I could look this up right now on my computer.
Well, don't do it. You're going to send him more money.
That's fine. I mean, he could use more than $1 million.
I thought you said it was 11 mil.
No. It got 156 million views. He made $1 million from it.
Oh, I thought you said 11 mil.
But like the reason I bring that up is like I wonder if this channel was just created like a couple weeks ago before the holidays, and they just put this together, and it somehow became the most popular one.
Oh yeah, something like that's always.
What's it called?
It is called 10 Hours Fireplace 10 Hours Channel. Let's see if I can find it here, because there's a chance here to 5 years ago is when it was created. That's not that long ago.
You can't just make a YouTube video and hope that it's popular. People go to what they have.
You could find can we find one of like
here's another one.
Ocean.
Fireplace 10 Hours Full HD from 9 years ago, 157 million views.
People just search and then they go to it. You got to come up with an app to where they don't need to go to YouTube.
There's got to be something else that's not been put on YouTube.
There's another one. Fireplace Evenings of Calm, burning logs, crackling sounds, and the serenity of pure relaxation. 14 million views started a year ago.
You got to come up. You got to use
a year ago.
You got to use big words.
We can come up with something like that. Yeah, like serenity's a good one.
We'd have to have Bradford involved.
Here's another one. There's a live 24/7 fireplace with crackling sounds.
Ooh.
Currently, 1,700 people viewing.
Wow. That's
just
impressive.
right now, there are 1,700 people watching at this exact moment.
Every once in a while, I'll just sit in your own thoughts, which is a dangerous place to be. And it's like, God, I am an idiot. Yep. Why didn't I just come up with the idea of making a video of a log with fire and music playing and put it on YouTube?
There's got to be something we can come up with. Or there's some that are like, what do they call, like lo-fi beats? So they'll take like famous, like I think it's like Star Wars. Like you get the famous music from Star Wars, and they kind of change it up a little bit. We could do that, like Stranger Things, pop culture. Let's go in there and let's kind of.
That sounds like a lawsuit in the waiting. Look, every time that like you would group off at school for projects, I was never a bad partner. Like I would do the work. I was just never creative enough to come up with the ideas. They do it, and then I do what they needed them to.
Alongside Alex and T-Bone on BK, the Cardinals win total is out. Are we going over or under? We'll tell you next here on 101 ESPN. Alongside Alex and T-Bone, I'm BK. Coming up in 10 minutes, we'll be joined by Jeremy Rutherford, Blues insider for The Athletic. Alex, we have our 2026 St. Louis Cardinals win total out.
You act like this is a big segment. Can we just say it's under and we'll move on?
I don't know where it's at even.
Oh, I do.
So the Washington Nationals are set at 69.5.
Oh,
The
man.
Pittsburgh Pirates, 74.5.
Feels
The
high.
Diamondbacks, 78.5.
Well, trying to trade Ketel
That's an
Marte.
interesting one. Colorado, 54.5.
Oh my gosh.
That checks out, though. I'd take under.
I
The
would take
St.
over,
Louis Cardinals win total, according to betonline.ag.
I saw this, so you're going to have to let T-Bone guess.
but- Okay.
Have you seen it,
I
T-Bone?
have not seen it. Okay, let me.
What would you guess their win total is set at for
100 losses would be
2026?
62. I say they're not that bad. I'll say like 93. So you got to add
93.
7. So 68.5, 69.5.
73.5
Oh,
is the
going lower.
over-under for the Cardinals in 2026. How you feel about that, Alex?
Checks out. Probably right around where it's at, because I do think there's a chance that this team is a 100-loss team. I actually would take over on this, though, and I would say I'd put it at 75. I think Ollie has the ability to get 5 or 6 more wins out of a team than what you originally thought. So I see it. 75 has been the number that's stuck in my head all year, all offseason, I should say, of this Cardinals team. So that's where I'm at.
Yeah, I would say under. I think they're about a 70, 71 win team. And
Last year, there were only 5 teams in Major League Baseball that had fewer than 72 wins.
yeah,
6 if you include the 72 that the Angels had. So that would be all the teams that went under what the Cardinals over-under is for next year.
yeah. I just don't think they're going to have the offense. I think the pitching's going to be underwhelming. And I like some of the pieces they got in the bullpen. We've talked about this before, but the bullpen, good luck predicting what that's going to be. So with that being said, I would lean towards the under on this. I think they'll be worse than the over-under is set at.
I would probably take the under as well. I think the most likely outcome here is you're around 70 to 72 wins.
Boy, this is weird since you're the one that's going over.
It kind of is.
I think it's hard to project teams that are in this range, though, because so little has to happen for them to go over. I know that sounds strange, but guys, it's not hard to win 78 games in Major League Baseball. The Cardinals did that last year. They were a 78-win team. They were a bad baseball team for most of the season. No. The Marlins won 79 games last year and came out of nowhere. The Athletics had a couple of young guys come up, had a lot of success. They won 76 games as a result. Meanwhile, the Braves and the Orioles were horrific last year relative to expectations. They even won 75 and 76 games. So it's just really hard to be this terrible. And the Cardinals' true talent probably is around this. Could they go over? Yeah, I wouldn't touch it personally, but if I had to project over under, I'll go under because I think they're more likely to tear this thing down than build it up during the regular season.
Well, Nolan Arenado will be back, and that'll be good for
No,
at least
come
2
on.
wins.
And I was going to say, we'll see how much when they trade Donovan, how much it impacts that number. But if you are thinking under, now would be the time to take it because it's only going to get lower, I think. Because if they trade Donovan, you said it's what,
3.5.
73.5.
It
I
probably
would
goes to,
assume
like,
that's
70.
taken into account.
Maybe. But
No,
since the Cardinals are saying we could hold on to him, I don't know if it is.
If Donnie's here, I think this is a clear over.
I would agree with that. Now, when we say clear over, I'm assuming you're not saying
75 to 77.
Okay, yeah, that's what I was thinking. I wonder if it goes down, though, if they trade Donovan. And it could go down. They trade Donovan, they trade JoJo, they move on from Arenado. I think it could get even lower, too, for the win total this year. Yeah. But I think, worst case, we've said it, 100 losses, I think, is their worst case scenario.
Somebody said, what strategy does Ollie play in order to get an advantage? That comes from the YouTube chat. Alex, you were the one that mentioned
I just think he brings the best out of his players. I think he keeps them engaged. We saw that last year for how miserable that season was, and they still found a way to pull themselves back up from their depth early on in the season. That's where I'm giving him the credit. And this is more like you can't measure it in terms of analytics, but I do think he gets the best out of his players and brings motivation towards them, and I think that is what could give and lend you to maybe getting a few more wins than what originally expected.
Coming up in 15 minutes, who are the NFL teams under the most pressure to win it this postseason? We mentioned this for the Lions last year. I think it ended up proving out. They needed to win because they were losing both of their coordinators, and it felt like lightning in the bottle. Win while this roster is at its peak. Well, we saw what happened this year to the Detroit Lions. They didn't take advantage of their window. Now they might have missed it already. Who is that team in 2026? We'll talk about that in 15 minutes. Jeremy Rutherford, Blues insider for The Athletic, joins us next year on 101 ESPN.
Tanner Hendrickson here, and the NFL playoffs get started this weekend, and DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NFL, makes every moment feel bigger. I'm going to hone in on the Saturday game between the Rams and the Carolina Panthers. Look, I think the Panthers are going to cover that 10-point spread, but I do like the Rams on the money line in the contest. But maybe you're thinking, Tanner, I don't have a great read on that contest. Well, guess what? DraftKings has live betting options once the game gets started, so you can stay right in the moment and make every moment matter this NFL postseason with DraftKings. Also, I'm looking at Matthew Stafford. Look, I think he's having a big game these playoffs. I'm going over 265.5 passing yards. And get this, with DraftKings, they have your back this postseason with early exit protection. If the player in your eligible NFL prop bet goes down at any point in the first half, you still get paid in cash. So with DraftKings, you're covered through the entire half. So why bet player props anywhere else? So download that DraftKings Sportsbook app now and use my code TANNER. That's code TANNER to turn $5 into $300 in bonus bets if your bet wins. In partnership with DraftKings, the crown is yours. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. 21 plus, physically present in Missouri. Eligibility and restrictions apply. Bet must win to receive bonus bets which expire in 7 days. Additional terms at dkng.co/audio. Limited time offer.
With Alex and T-Bone on BK. Alex is quoting Rocky while we're in the middle of a break.
We started watching it, and my wife was like actually interested in watching it with me, and so we watched the first one the other night. God, it's so good.
There was nothing on last night, so we watched The American President again. Haven't seen that in a long time. Great movie. You seen that?
I win over your pick.
I've never even heard of that.
I haven't either.
Oh, it's a good one. Did you like The West Wing? Did you ever watch any of that?
I watched like the first couple of episodes, didn't really get into it.
Oh, you think it sticks in here?
It's an Aaron Sorkin film. I really enjoy it, but I'm sure many on our text line would probably
terrible.
What's it called?
be upset with me.
Michael J. Fox is in it, though. I love Michael J. Fox.
It's a 95 film. It's basically the precursor to The West Wing. A lot of the characters became like inspiration.
Rob Reiner directed it. I didn't realize that.
Yeah, I think it's a really, really good movie.
You should watch Rocky, man.
Oh, you think it sticks in here? All right, let's go out to the Callier and Thompson hotline to be joined by our friend, the Blues insider for The Athletic. He's Jeremy Rutherford joining us here on the show. JR, do you like The American President or Rocky better?
Well, Alex will give me trouble, but I haven't made it through all the Rockies yet. I'm kind of spacing them out. I'm not binging them. I'm going to let them.
Spacing them out, JR. They've been up for 40 years, man. JR brought that up on the last podcast, and I kind of lost my marbles a little bit.
Are you a Rocky guy or a Creed guy, JR? Have you seen the Creed films?
Yeah, I like Rocky. I really do. And even though I haven't made it through them yet, I do like the series.
Yo, Adrian, I did it! I like the Creed franchise better than the Rocky franchise, Alex. I'm a Michael P. Jordan guy. What can I say?
That's a trash take right there.
All right, JR, let's talk a little bit of Blues with you. So they've won 2 in a row. Tomorrow, for I think the 17th time this season, they will have an opportunity to win their 3rd consecutive game. They have not been able to do so just yet, but maybe this will be the time that they actually get it going for themselves. What's changed, if anything, in your opinion, over the last 2? Have you seen anything tangible that's actually worked for the Blues?
Yeah, I think a couple things. I think that you look at Robert Thomas and the way he played. You look at the way Jordan Binnington played. That's what the Blues are used to. You know, Robert Thomas looking like he's trying to take over a game. We saw that when he came back from his injury earlier in the year. Remember, he had the multi-point game, and people said, you know, gosh, if that Robert Thomas comes to play, you know, the Blues can really take off. And so I think we saw that. And then, of course, Jordan Binnington looking like the Jordan Binnington of old. So they do get a chance to go for 3 in a row. And guess who it comes against? The rival Blackhawks, who, oh, by the way, have won 3 in a row coming into this game. So it's going to be interesting because, you know, the Blues are 3 points back of a playoff spot. I'm not sitting here trying to talk about playoffs in January. We've talked about all the deficiencies they have, and they need to overcome them. But you still see yourself hanging there in the picture, and you got a couple teams, including Utah, just ahead of you in the standings on this road trip.
So what you're saying, JR, is when they win on Wednesday, we should expect the article from you saying why this time it's real.
Yeah.
Why this time? Just like I wrote what Dom got wrong, right? And it turns out that Dom got a lot right. So maybe I'll stay away from those articles.
Unfortunately, I didn't read that one, our articles, JR, so sorry about that. Speaking of Robert Thomas, we talked about him a little bit earlier in the show, just his lack of performance early on and how he's starting to turn it on a little bit more, JR. How much of this do you feel like is Robert Thomas's inconsistencies versus the team not having a forward that can play to the same skill level that Robert Thomas has?
Yeah, I do think there's a little bit of that to it. You know, I'm not going to take Robert Thomas off the hook. Everybody, you know, wishes that the numbers were better this year. But if you zero in on him and watch the plays that he's set up in the last couple weeks that haven't been finished, you know, whether it's been by a Buchnevich, you know, a few weeks ago a couple times, or whether it's been by a rookie Stenberg there at the net the other night, there have been some plays where if they're converted, he's got a lot more points, and you're talking about how well he's playing. So, you know, I think it's a little bit him. You know, we've seen him at his best, and he hasn't been there this year. But I do think that it's been some players around him that haven't been able to play with him, I guess is the best way to say it.
When you look at the roster construction right now, this has been a question that we've received a lot on the text line recently. How do you think they navigate this moving forward, JR? I mean, you're going to have some big decisions coming up in the not-too-distant future as guys start to get healthy again. Yeah,
you are. So today you had at practice Nathan Walker skating with that fourth line, and they're going to see how he holds up through the next 12, 15 hours and decide whether he plays. in Chicago. But if you do, you got that line back that you envisioned to be your fourth line with Toropchenko and with Sundqvist and with Nathan Walker. And I know that's your fourth line, but for the Blues, sometimes it makes the biggest difference. And so, you're going to have some decisions because I really like the way Stenberg's playing. And right now he's on that third line with Dvorsky and Berggren. And, you just like every little detail that he's providing. And if you get to a situation where you got Walker coming back, you have Bukestad coming back at some point. And today, Luke Korak reporting that Dylan Holloway was skating before practice. So Jim Montgomery saying afterwards that baby steps for Holloway, but that's the first good sign for him that when he comes back, it's either Stenberg or you're going to have to waive a guy because Stenberg doesn't need waivers. He can go straight back to Springfield, and you protect that asset, but you keep up players on the roster who haven't played as well as him. So I think that's the decision that it's going to come down to for the Blues.
Could you see a scenario, JR, that when those decisions have to be made of potentially sending Stenberg down, waiving a couple of guys, could you see Doug maybe trying to force the trade to happen faster so they're not moving guys through waivers?
Yeah, you could, and that's another option, of course, making a trade prior to, having to either send somebody down or put somebody on waivers, what that trade would be, who they'd be trying to trade, or if you're talking about trading, one of those fourth-line guys, a Matthew Joseph, who's actually had a decent year. Like, he hasn't been great, but he's had a decent year, and there might be some interest around the league. Nick Bukestad's coming back from injury. I don't know that there's any trade value there, but, there's some potential. It's another option for Doug Armstrong to look at.
How have you viewed Otto Stenberg and what he's been able to bring to this team?
Well, I view it from the big picture first, is I didn't expect him to be up here at this point. But obviously the injuries led to that, especially, 5, 6 of them up front. And, I know the Blues have always said they didn't want to put these young guys in a position to fail. And with the way the season was going and with all the injuries, but I guess they got to a point where you had no choice but to call him up, and he's just looked better than I expected his second year playing in North America. Like, let's remember that transition year was last year coming over from Sweden. And so just everything that you like about a young player's game, and not just the ability to do it, but the awareness, the importance of how important these things are that Otto Stenberg is doing, and he's catching the eye of the coaching staff. Like, even though he could be here these past couple weeks to a month that he's been here, they could have put somebody else in and, kept him as a 12th, 13th forward, but they're not doing that. Look, they got him on the third line, and he's taking shifts on the top line. So it's proof that they like what he's doing.
Alex, quick question here for you and JR. Do you know who leads the Blues in plus-minus so far this season?
Because you asked him about Otto Stenberg, I'll say Otto Stenberg.
JR, do you know the answer?
Well, at one point, let's see, you had Broberg was up there earlier in the season.
Broberg is an even right now, which is honestly incredibly impressive.
For how much minutes that guy plays.
Incredibly. Yeah. But, I mean, if it's Stenberg at the moment, small sample size, but it's still pretty telling.
Yeah, it's Otto Stenberg at a +4, then Berggren at a +2, then Skinner.
Swedes.
He played one game. He's a +1.
Way to go, Hunter.
Nobody else is better than an even, where you've got Broberg, Joseph, and Kessel. JR, the final question that I had for you.
Yep.
Alex is incredibly excited about Adam Jiricek. Saw him in the World Juniors and was like, this guy's amazing.
Yesterday.
And then I have jumped on board. I'm following in Alex's coattails and saying, all right, this is the young guy that gets me a little excited with the potential point production from a defenseman. Whether it's your interactions with people around the Blues or scouts, whoever it may be, what can fans expect from Adam Jiricek, the young defenseman that just finished up with the World Juniors?
Well, here's another guy who, let's go back to the beginning of the season when Doug Armstrong said, we just want to see him healthy. If you could go from that moment where the GM is saying that we just want to see the guy healthy on the ice to where he's at right now, it's incredible. I mean, we're talking about best defender at the World Juniors. I saw that Andy Strickland tweeted that people in the organization are comparing him to this player. I've heard the exact same thing. They're comparing him to Alex Pietrangelo. That's the comp for Adam Jiricek. And I don't think that it's beyond expectation that he could be on the roster next year. And you're talking about a first-round draft pick from just 2 years ago who's been banged up. But now he's healthy, like the organization wanted to see, and he's performing. So, look, he's going to go back to junior hockey here after the World Junior Championship. Already this morning I'm getting text messages from people around that junior hockey team saying he looked great. That's how he looked this season. Most improved player by far. This is a player who I think for a defenseman is going to be ready for the National Hockey League a lot sooner than many expected.
JR, I watched that World Juniors Championship game last night and also got excited because the Blues, if the season doesn't go well, might be drafted in the top 3. Are you on the same board as I am? Let's recreate the Sedin brothers and get the Stenberg brothers in St. Louis.
Yeah, I was in the Blues locker room a week ago, and it was the same day that The Athletic put out a story by one of our prospect writers, and he said that Ivar Stenberg makes a case to be the number 1 pick in the draft. And I think Scott Wheeler is saying that again today. And I pulled it up on my phone, the article, and showed it to Otto. And I said, hey, look at this story. They're saying that your brother could go number 1. And he just, the eyes opened up pretty big, and you saw like a dang. pretty impressed with his brother. So obviously he had a big win last night with Sweden, was a big part of that team. And I don't know, Alex, do Blues fans, maybe they do want to, play poorly enough to get that number 1 pick, but that's what it might take to get Ivar Stenberg.
I was hoping he'd fly under the radar, like a 3rd overall pick or something, but, it's not going to work. I just think of it now, JR. You just got 2 Stenbergs and Robert Thomas sandwiched right in between.
Jeremy Rutherford is our guest, as he is each and every Tuesday on BK and Ferrario. All right, JR, we'll get you out of here on this one. Do you have a prediction for either the Super Bowl or the college football playoff as we begin the playoffs for the NFL this weekend, and we've got the semifinals on the college football side this week?
Yeah, so NFL, not so much. When I lost in my survivor pool several weeks ago, I was kind of bummed out for a few weeks.
Heard that,
can't help you there. But I know it's the front runner. I know I'm going, but Indiana just looks amazing, so I'm going to go Indiana.
All right. I've got Indiana as well. T-Bone, who do you have officially as your title winner this year?
Indiana.
Indiana?
Yeah.
Alex?
Yeah, Indiana.
Indiana as well? Yeah, they're unbelievable, man. What Kurt Cignetti has done has been pretty remarkable to witness.
JR and I had to suffer the survivor pools.
Yeah.
I think it was actually the same week that JR and I went down.
Tough,
so
man.
Oh, that's tough.
yeah, I think we both
Tough way to go down. But we'll win it back with Underdog Fantasy Basketball.
Not that much money,
Download
man.
that DraftKings Sportsbook app,
No.
JR.
JR,
Use
appreciate
promo
the
code
time as
TKO.
always, buddy. We'll talk with you again next week.
All right, see you, boys.
See you,
Take it
JR.
easy. That's Jeremy Rutherford joining us as he does each and every week here on BK and Ferrario.
You think it stinks in here? Now I got the quote in my head.
Yeah. We got it 4 times in that segment.
It's going to happen. Well, how many more segments do we have? 2? It's going to happen a lot more. I can't get it out of my head.
All right, Alex, coming up next, we got to get back to the NFL playoffs. They begin this weekend in earnest. We said last year the team under the most pressure to win right now, the team with urgency, is the Detroit Lions. They were losing both of their coordinators to head coaching jobs elsewhere, and the roster is getting more expensive, getting older, and you never know when you're going to have that injury luck once again. Well, that looks like it was pretty accurate looking back on it from what we saw this season. Who is that team in this year's playoffs? We'll give you our thoughts next year on 101 ESPN.
Tanner Hendrickson here, the Sports Center update brought to you by Saliga Heating and Cooling. Blues off again today. They will be back in action tomorrow as they visit the Chicago Blackhawks. Well, pregame coverage tomorrow starting at 7:30 with Alex Ferrario, then puck drop at 8:30 with Chris Kerber and Joey Vitale. The Sports Center update is brought to you by Saliga Heating and Cooling, an Icon Heating and Air Conditioning dealer.
Alex, Underdog just added another playoff best ball format. It's $3 to enter. You can do up to 20 of them. $50,000 in prizes, $5,000 going to first place.
Look, I love the idea, but it gives me anxiety that you have this many of them because I don't know. I struggle to keep track of 3 fantasy football teams.
I'll have roughly 50 teams in play.
Do you have
that might be a little
Do you have
low.
a spreadsheet up on your front window of your house?
Probably only 5 of them will advance to the next round. I'll see out of those, and then I will start to keep track of them.
God bless you, man.
When I made it to the Super Bowl, I looked through every team to see what their rosters were, and I knew going in I had a pretty good shot of being able to at least place for good money.
Can I go in 50% with you on them all?
No. I mean, if you want me to draft them and you pay 50% of the entry fees.
Well, we did the last time, and then you won $5,000, and you were like, you didn't pay me.
All right, let's get into this. So,
yeah, let's get into it.
The NFL playoffs are here. We're a few days away. And, Alex, last year we said the team with the most urgency, the team with the most pressure to win right now is the Detroit Lions. Now, they were kind of new money when it came to making it to the playoffs, but these windows can be so incredibly short. Look at the Bengals. They had 1 year where they made it to the playoffs, made it to the Super Bowl, and then basically ever since they haven't been the same team. The Detroit Lions last year get to the playoffs and were one of the favorites to advance to the Super Bowl. Couldn't get there. Dan Campbell said afterwards, this hurts because I don't know when we're ever going to get back. It's like, I hope that's not the case, but the reality is you just never know. It's so hard to get here. Well, look at them now. They're at home, and the playoffs are about to begin. In your mind, who is that team this year that has that pressure to win right now, that feels the urgency that this might be the window?
This one's tough because the way that you described it, I don't know if I have a team that falls into that feels like, well, we don't know if we'll ever be back here again. But the team that I would put at the top of the list is the Bills. And not that I don't think they'll ever be back there again. I don't think you have this best of a chance to win the Super Bowl this season because Patrick Mahomes, your kryptonite, is not in it. They'll retool. They'll be back. I don't know what's going to happen with the Cincinnati Bengals, but frankly, they've got a really good offense if they can figure out everything else. If I'm the Bills and I'm looking around at the landscape of the AFC and really over in the NFC where there's not a giant, I look at this saying, I don't know if I'm going to have a better shot right now to get a Super Bowl if I'm Josh Allen. And again, if you get knocked out in the first round, I think there'll be a playoff team again next year. But it's a think. You almost missed it this year. And I don't trust your front office to continue to retool your roster and give you the necessary assets to win, even if you've got Josh Allen, who's a unicorn. So to me, the Bills were the team that I looked at and I said, man, this feels like it has to be the year that you win it. Otherwise, it's going to go down.
Yeah, I like that one because I think what you said there is they'll be back, but they don't have their kryptonite in the AFC. The one that I would go with here, and I think they could be back, but I don't know how much longer they've got their guy here. It would be the Rams. Stafford's getting old, man. He's 30, I think 37. And there was a lot of questions of were the Rams even going to bring him back because they had some concerns as he's starting to age, what he's going to look like. Now, they were clearly wrong because he's an MVP candidate this season. But how much longer is he going to play at that level? Probably never getting back to that level again. Like, this may be the best of Matthew Stafford. And if he does come back, he's got, maybe 3 years left in him at best. So if you're the Rams, you have to take advantage of this. Devontae Adams is a receiver that is going to be back. He's older as well. And right now, you've got a defense that is cheap and not costing you a ton of money. Well, those guys are getting ready to start to get paid here before too long as you're approaching the quarterback abyss that could be coming up without Matthew Stafford. So I think it's the Rams because the NFC is open and Stafford's playing at this high of a level.
That was one of the teams that I had on my list. The Rams because of Stafford and because of Puka. Because Puka's contract next year is the final year of his deal. He's probably going to extend this offseason. That would, most realistically speaking, that's probably the timing where they would want to get it done. And that means he gets expensive quickly. Like, we're talking $30 million a year. He's making $1 million right now. That's a huge jump, and it really changes the way that you're able to shape this roster. But since you already had them, I'll go with a different one because I think all of these are legit candidates. Seattle. I don't know that you're ever going to be able to construct this kind of a defense
you
again.
got such a young defense.
Doesn't matter, man. We've seen this before where defenses go up and down and up and down. Offense is pretty stable. When you've got a great offense, it's typically because you have a fantastic quarterback. And year over year, quarterback play is, we kind of know who the good guys are. And they, generally speaking, are really good every year. On defense, you can go from being the best defense in the NFL one year to like 10th the next year. Still really good, but not at that like almost historic rate. And that's in play for the Seattle Seahawks. They might just be really good next year. And that difference with their offense, with Sam Darnold as your quarterback, you go from being a Super Bowl contender this year to, you could win 10 games next year, and you're probably looking more like the, I don't know.
Packers.
Yeah,
the
Packers,
healthy version
the
of the Packers,
Steelers.
Yeah.
What we thought kind of honestly, Chargers. Chargers are a really good defense, but their offense is so bad because of their offensive line. It's a different reason, but so because of their offensive line that nobody really believes in them as a Super Bowl contender. So this could all go to hell quickly for Seattle. Still decent, not quite the same contender. So I would put them right at the top of my list of teams that are, man, this might be their best shot. They also could lose their offense coordinator. Clint Kubiak is potentially in play to become a head coach somewhere else this offseason. And if he leaves, I don't know who they're replacing him with.
Yeah, I think all three NFC West teams are under a lot of pressure. I would put San Fran up here as well. And the reason I would say that is, how often are you going to get this kind of a year from CMC? Right? Like he's always
2 years ago with them.
Yeah, but he goes up and down, right? Like last year, he couldn't stay on the field.
I think they're different because they had the year from hell with injuries on the defense side.
I get it,
and their
but
coach is just a genius.
I get it, but he's going to have to start replacing Christian McCaffrey before too long because he's getting up there in age. And again, I don't know how many more. This is probably the best he's going to be. George Kittle's getting up there in age.
Great next
Trent
year
Williams is getting old in his position at left tackle. Like all their offensive pieces,
they've survived with
are
Trent
starting
Williams
to get older
for a while. Though
I think they're under a ton of pressure. I get what you're saying about the defense because that is the one thing that will kill them. But offensively, like, man, that is a ton of your pieces that are getting up there in age and deal with injuries consistently, to where they may have already missed their best window, but now they're paying their quarterback, right? They are now paying Brock Purdy. So I think they're under immense pressure as well in these playoffs.
They're a team that I think has very little pressure. It's interesting. We're on the total opposite viewpoints on this. I think they might be in better position next year to win a Super Bowl than they are this year. Because if they can get those defenders back healthy, Fred Warner, Nick Bosa, those guys aren't just good players. They're like elite at their respective positions, and they completely change how I view their roster. This year, I don't think anything really changes. For like Christian McCaffrey's 29. I think he's going to be really good again next year. In fact, compared to his typical standards, he was just really good this year. It was not a historically great season for him. He averaged less than 4 yards per carry. He was super productive through the air, but he's always really productive through the air. George Kittle, yeah, he's getting older, but he's not like Travis Kelce age. He's 32. He'll be 32 next year. So I don't think that they're necessarily in the same spot. Like the Rams, I feel like, are definitely in this position because of the age of their quarterback. Seahawks definitely because of the way that they're constructed. If you wanted to say the same thing for the Broncos, I could kind of hear that argument because Knicks will get more expensive soon. But they've got, I think next year is when the Russell Wilson money comes off of the books, finally. And they do have a better offense than like the Seahawks, for example. So I don't know.
Are the Texans under any pressure? Stroud's going to have to get, he hasn't signed his contract, right?
I feel like they're the team, though, that's like, because it doesn't matter. We still got next year.
Maybe they're more the team that feels like they've wasted their opportunity because
he's got one more year with Stroud at a super cheap rate.
Yeah, okay, so maybe they've got one more year after this. Yep. But again, like I'm looking at their offense and I'm going, man, this offense does not have the weapons that I would want to see from a team on that. But
also didn't have Joe Mixon healthy at all this season.
Yeah, and like you mentioned defense, like what's their calling card? Defense.
Well, no doubt.
Next year, if it's not their calling card, are they going to go out and really upgrade this offense? Well, they got to be careful because they got to pay C.J. Stroud here in the next year. They've got to get that done this offseason.
Fair. I would say next year's the year that I would pinpoint for them. I would also say the biggest difference between the Texans and the Seahawks, I do think if you're building around superstar defenders, that I can expect to be great every year, and the Texans have some of those. They've got blue-chip talent at basically every level of their defense. The Seahawks don't really have that. They've just got really good players littered across the team, And that makes it more difficult to build around them. Like when you're building, if you're the 49ers, for example, around Nick Bosa, when he's there, I know he's going to be awesome. When you're building around 11 guys that play really well together, well, if you pull one or two of those pieces out, and that always happens with free agency, and you lose those chips, you better be right in replacing them. And about 50% of the time you're wrong and you miss, or that guy gets hurt. And so next year, the defense looks a lot different for a team like the Seahawks. They've got really good players everywhere, but I think it's a little different building around like a Will Anderson up front as opposed to building around some of the guys that the Seahawks have so far. It's an interesting spot for some of these teams, though. Texans, for example, that the AFC, I think a lot of these teams feel that pressure, not so much because of where they're at on their timeline, but more so because of where the Ravens and the Chiefs find themselves on their respective timelines. Yeah. Like this feels like such a big moment for the Texans, the Broncos, the Patriots, the Jags, and the Bills. Because are you ever going to have another opportunity to get to the Super Bowl without having to beat one of Mahomes or Lamar?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well,
I don't know,
Lamar's
man.
easy to beat in the playoffs.
That's
I'm not worried about that. Burrow would be the better
Feels like
one.
the year when Brady went down early on.
Exactly.
Right? Where it's like, whoa, well, wait, wow, this is suddenly a lot more open than we were expecting.
And that gave us, I think that was the Steelers versus the Cardinals,
that's right.
if I'm not mistaken.
All-time classic.
It was a really good game.
I know. I still remember that touchdown catch.
Great game, just relatively forgettable in terms of the overall.
They just weren't an elite team like Tom Brady.
Yeah. Just not the same historic.
Kurt Warner, Big Ben, meh.
Yeah. The Kurt Warner one was fun.
Kurt Warner
Larry
was
Fitzgerald
awesome.
was
great.
Larry Fitzgerald was at his prime.
Bolden. Yeah, Bolden was really good.
Kind of came out of nowhere. Who would be the equivalent of that? Would that be
Jaguars?
Yeah,
Maybe.
Jags would probably be the closest comp.
Brian Thomas, Myers are not. Although Fitzgerald ended up having a Hall of Fame career. I don't know that they've got that in Jack. Maybe Thomas becomes that, but Lawrence, I can
Maybe
see
the
doing
Texans,
like
Nico
Warner.
Collins just goes off in the postseason.
Who's their second guy though? Like Bolden was a stud receiver. He's,
Yeah.
He's not a Hall of Famer, but he's
Houston
really
doesn't have a
good.
second guy.
Yeah, I don't know who that
Jacksonville
maybe the
doesn't really
equivalent
either.
would just be the Texans pass rushers. The equivalent to their receivers would be the Texans pass rushers going on a crazy run, kind of similar to like the Broncos with Von Miller or the Seahawks when they had that Legion of Boom era. All right, coming up next, we'll get to the rewind here on 101 ESPN. With Alex and T-Bone, I'm BK. If you guys missed anything from today's show, be sure to check it out on the podcast page. 101ESPN.com and the free 101 ESPN app is where you go to find it. It's all sponsored by...
Did you just steal my thunder there? Is Ricochet for Door Company. I think you kind of stole my thunder there.
I'm sorry.
You can't milk what I do on that, man.
The 101 ESPN app is sponsored by Dobbs Tire and Auto Centers.
Thank you. That's more like it.
What grade would you give today's show?
7.2, man. We had nothing to talk about today.
Wow, that's why I'd give it a higher score. I was impressed we came up with the rundown as quick as we did.
You didn't ask how impressive we were. I was just saying what the show was. We had no content today.
I'm going a 9 out of 10.
That's trash. Yesterday was a 9.9.
Give it an 8.6. I thought we did pretty good given the content that was available for us.
I think we did a 10 out of 10. I just think content-wise...
Quentin Corpel covers Mizzou football out in Columbia.
Give it up, man. Stop
just
looking
put out
at
the
it.
Following updated list of the top 15 snap count leaders for Mizzou on defense from the past season. Marvin Burks, portal. Toriano Pride, out of eligibility. Zion Young, out of eligibility. Dalen Carnell, out of eligibility. Chris McClellan, out of eligibility. Santana Banner, back.
Ooh, I saw that was announced.
Josiah Trotter, NFL draft. Dre Norwood, out of eligibility. Damon Wilson, portal. Stephen Hall, out. Sterling Webb, out. Khalil Jacobs, out of eligibility. I stopped saying it all. Jalen Catalon, out. And then finally, Nick Rodriguez back. Darius Smith back.
Good God.
At least you got a linebacker from Auburn.
If you go by the announced starters, the primary announced starters game to game, they will return exactly 0 heading into 2026.
I think we should probably...
So how are you feeling about the 11 win you were yelling about
pretty
earlier?
good, because most of these guys weren't on the roster either last year or the year before either. They've done a really excellent job of replacing defensive talent through the portal. So I think they'll be fine. Is it going to be as good defensively as it was a year ago? Probably not. I would expect them to take a step back on that side of the football. I also am expecting a pretty big step forward on offense. So there's a sliding scale where you could end up meeting in the middle and being a better team.
I think those guys that are out of eligibility should check with the NCAA. I mean, you're never out of eligibility in college athletics.
I think you're just taking classes. I think you're good, man.
I think if I'm Torian Pride, I think I got one more in me.
Yeah. Join that lawsuit with Chambliss and Pavia. Pavia coming back again?
Yeah, Pavia's going to be in his 9th year, man. You can make it. Anything's possible in the NCAA.
It is.
There's your promotion.
It is.
What a promo.
I know, right? NCAA, where anything is possible, including your eligibility.
Damon Wilson
we
thing
have no rules.
has Mizzou fans on edge.
Why, man?
He was likely to go to the NFL draft. That was always my assumption, is he's probably going to go to the NFL draft this offseason.
And he was probably going to be a late first, if not later, in the draft pick.
It sounds like the return from the NFL was, hey, you should probably go back to school. I guess maybe he wasn't quite as highly thought of by the NFL as we expected it to be.
You're going to make a lot of money going back to school rather than go to the NFL and get drafted in the 5th round.
I mean, Damon Wilson was awesome for Mizzou last year. Awesome. And now I see some Mizzou fans on social media trying to tamp down what he was. No, he was great.
That's how you cope, though, man.
Yeah, I get
it's
it.
When the Blues let Petrangelo walk, it's he's not any good anyway.
Damon Wilson was great. We don't have to pretend he wasn't. He was one of the best defensive ends for Mizzou in the last 5 years, and they've had some pretty good ones. So he was excellent for Mizzou this past year. He wrecked some games, and they're going to have to replace him. Just the way that they found Damon Wilson last year in the transfer portal, the way they found Josiah Trotter in the transfer portal a year ago. This is life as a college football coach in 2026. You have to assume every season everybody on your roster is gone. And when you're able to re-sign some of them, that's found money. But the assumption is most of these guys won't be back. It's a crazy way to build, but it's the only way you can do it nowadays.
People shouldn't be focused on the Damon Wilson exit. More excited about the 6'8", 320-pound lineman.
No, they're not him. They're not him.
Are you kidding? This dude is a beast.
Yeah, that's nice, but they're no Damon Wilson.
Alex is talking about...
Ramila, by the way, mentioned that Illinois, just to say that this is for everybody, they're losing 40 players, he said today.
Bielema's kicking people out because they're not good enough.
He did say that, too, which is kind of funny to hear him say out loud.
Though. I
know it's true, but how many coaches you hear say it out loud? Brad, come on, man.
Yeah. Not every player that transferred from Mizzou was by their choice. I mean, look at the Texas wide receiver. This is a big-time program, right? Texas, one of their top wide receivers, one of their most productive guys. He posted on Instagram that this is out of his control. He couldn't come back, probably because Texas was lowballing him. They wanted to get in on the Cam Coleman sweepstakes. He's one of the best wide receivers in the country. I don't blame them for that. But there's only so much money to pay to your receiver room, which means there wasn't as much available to go to this other kid that had already produced for Texas at a high level. He is Arch Manning's roommate.
Oh.
And they said, hey, listen, you can either accept this lowball offer from us or, I don't know, man, you're going to have to go elsewhere. And he said, I guess I'm going to have to go elsewhere. Guess where he decided to go? Oklahoma. So he just committed today to play for their sworn rival. So it's happening everywhere. This is not just a Mizzou problem, even though it feels that way when you're a Mizzou fan because they're the team that we monitor so closely.
Again, 6'8", 320-pound lineman.
Alongside Alex and T-Bone, I'm BK. We'll be back tomorrow at 11 a.m. The Fast Lane's coming up next here on 101 ESPN.